Totally.
Okay.
Ingrid, if you
I
can start
got
the
most
PowerPoint.
of it, Tracy. Just to let you know.
Okay.
Tracy, can I ask a question, please?
Yes, of course.
I actually was planning on participating in this meeting in the office, and I decided to come home and participate, and I left everything I printed out for this meeting in the office.
Mm-hmm.
But someone sent a recap that you created. Who sent that so I can pull it up on my cell phone?
I think it was Aaron. Is that right, Aaron?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, it was Aaron. Okay.
Aaron? E-R-I-N?
A-A-R-O-N.
Okay, I'll try to pull it up. Thank you so much.
And Ramona, no worries if you can't. We're going to project it on the screen, and
okay, good. I thought that was
read it.
That was well done. Okay, then I won't worry. Thank you.
Yeah, don't try to read it on your phone. Your eyes will blow up.
I know, but I wanted to refer to it.
Okay.
I was just gonna say, Ramona, if you want to do your search, it's under the homework data is what it was called that Aaron sent out.
Okay, thank you so much.
No problem.
Thanks, Ira. Okay, take it away, Mr. Zavala.
Thank you. Next slide, please, Ingrid. And then Martine, if you can unmute yourself. Thank you.
Gracias, Aaron. Mi nombre es Martín Rivarola. Voy a estar haciendo, junto con mi colega Gustavo Sánchez, la traducción simultánea al español de esta reunión. Para acceder al audio en español, todo lo que usted debe hacer es donde dice Interpretation, que es donde tiene el globo terráqueo, la imagen esa. Usted aprieta ahí, le va a salir la opción de seleccionar el canal en español, y una vez que hace esto, usted estará escuchando toda la reunión en español, ¿sí? Así que bueno, muchas gracias, aquí estamos. Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you. To join the audio, if you go to the bottom left-hand side of your screen, there are two options. You can use your device's audio or call in using the cell phone. Once your audio is connected, please mute. Please remain muted until it is your turn to speak. To unmute, press the same button. For the audience, later on when we have public comment, and if you're wishing to speak, I will call on you by name, where you can unmute yourself and begin speaking. Next slide, please. To start video, there's a start and stop video icon at the bottom left-hand side. Please keep your camera on for the duration of the meeting. And for the public, please keep your camera off. To raise your hand, there's a raise your hand function under the participants list. In order to speak, please raise your hand. Next slide, please. And then if there are any technical difficulties, you can either email myself or para español, you can email Martine. Thank you.
Aaron?
Yes, Martine. I see your hand, and
yeah,
I will
transfer me.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. So wait a minute. Let's go back. Sorry, I had to go adjust my windows. So
Okay. Sorry, I just took that down because it was projecting weird. I thought I had the wrong slide, but there it is. I don't know why it was only showing one bullet.
Okay. Do you want to put it back up?
Can you see? Oh, here.
No.
That was bizarre. Okay.
I don't know. On my camera, my zoom looks like, I'm green, like Herman the Munster. I don't know. What?
Yeah, it's like when I first was displaying this, it only showed 2 bullets, and then I just
didn't
reopen it, and there it is. Okay.
All right. So welcome again. What we will do today is we already had our pre-chat. What we will do today is discuss and review the homework and come up with, this time I'm going to say 5, you will each get 5 votes. And we'll have 5 top, we'll see where it comes out, but we'll pick the top 5, assuming there's enough cluster, to pick 5 under diversity in schools, and then also under creation of a multicultural center, that, 5 areas that we will then flesh out a bit and send to council, or prepare to send to council. We will also talk about what we'll do next time, which will be diversity in hiring, primarily with the city. And then we will review everything we've done so far and put a bow on it for the council. Fair enough? All right. So I will be a little bit more heavy-handed this time because we have to get through these 2. We've never done a double session, and essentially we're doing a double session. So, stretch, do a quick down dog, whatever it takes to get you. Yeah, that's right, Zyra, get that necklace, because we have a lot to do. All right, next, please.
Tracy,
Yes.
it's Eric. Sorry to interrupt. There's a couple, I know we've got a lot to cover, but there's a couple business items on the agenda, the call to order, roll call, and minutes approval.
Right, and those are coming right up.
Okay,
So,
great. Thank you.
I just want to
That's okay.
remind. No, that's okay. That's okay. Appreciate it. Let's remind. Wait, go back. Yeah, remind ourselves of the principles. Safe expression feels. Keep yourself safe. If you don't feel safe, let us know. Inclusiveness and equity. You all have been wonderful about not talking over each other. Easy participation and equal access, meaningful engagement, and I know that's hard in a group this size. Through technology, but that's what we have to work with right now. And accountability. What we say is a matter of the public record. All right, next, please. All right, now let's do the roll call. See, Eric, I hadn't forgotten you. Let's do the roll call vote for attendance and for establishment of a quorum. If we might have the inimitable Susie, please.
Hi, thank you, Tracy. Hi, everyone. I'm going to be calling roll call alphabetical order as usual. Joel Brunner DeKeen.
Present.
Liz Chacon. Claudia De La Pena.
Present.
Ramona Faith.
Present.
Rabbi Ted Feldman.
Present.
Anthony Franklin.
Present.
Johanna Garcia.
Present.
Zyra Garcia.
Present.
Hanan Hunaidi.
Present.
Eric Leland.
Present.
Sonja Lowry.
Present.
Sadie Martinez. Julian Main.
Present.
Mike Miller.
Present.
Joanna Pawn. Kenyatta Reynolds.
Kenyatta is present, but she's having issues connecting to audio.
Excellent, thanks so much. Fabian Romo Macias. Faith Ross. Mark Scott.
Present.
Present.
Thank you, Faith. Joe Sturdivant.
Present.
Risa Tinsley Green.
Present.
Pedro Toledo.
Present.
Catherine Wells.
Present.
Aaron Wilkins.
Present.
Luz Wire.
Present.
Thank you so much. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Appreciate your help, Susie, as always. Might we go get, thank you. So we'll review the minutes from the last meeting from 7/20/21. Just take a minute to review them silently and then let me know. These are action minutes, not verbatim minutes. So let me know if there are any corrections and just speak up if there are. Let's take about 2 minutes. I do not Is it, I don't see or hear any correction, so is it safe to say that we're good to go on as approving the minutes? Okay. We will deem that as completed. Next, okay, let's remind ourselves that this is the rubric that we're using, or the construct that we're using, to hold our ideas. They should be very specific, measurable, actionable, relevant to the topic at hand, and time bound. And from what I've seen in that homework, you all get this in flying colors. So thank you. So let's go to the next slide. All right. So this is what we're, yeah, you can go to the next slide. Yeah, you can go to it. So it's blank. And it's blank because originally there were pages of homework submitted, which was wonderful. It was very detailed. I honestly do read these things all the way through and think about them. And, normally the last few times we've been able to sort of populate, using a few, words or phrases, but people put so much effort and thought into these, into these ideas and the complexity. I wouldn't have done it justice, and that's not fair. So what we're going to do, I'm going to go against every precept of how you do a good presentation. Bear with me. I personally don't like a lot of words on a screen. We don't have a choice right now because there was so much content that came out. The best way to show this, because in PowerPoint, they would have been in about a 0.5 font. That's not going to work. They're going to be in Word documents. They were sent out to you. I'm also going to break another rule. You don't read the screen, in detail to your participants, but I'm going to, because I know some of you, maybe you're busy, you may not have had time to read through the compilation, or you may not have it. Maybe you didn't print it. So I will read it, and and we'll go from there. So the process will be, we will start first with diversity in schools, increased diversity awareness and visibility in schools, diversity education in schools, and restorative justice in schools. We will start there. I will show you the compilation of the ideas. I'll read them quickly. Then what I'd like to do is have discussion. We'll just open it up to the committee for comment. And then we will take a vote. We'll go, we'll do roll call, and you'll have 5 votes to allocate, and these will be up. So you can say 5 to number 1, or 2 to number 1, 3 to number 14. Fair enough? Any questions on the process? No? Okay. Then we will do the same iteration for the Multicultural Center. Then we will take a maybe 10-minute break. And at that point, the magic will happen in the background. Erin and Ingrid and Susie will come up with the top 5 in each of the categories, diversity in schools and the Multicultural Center. And then we'll discuss those and either put them forth to council as they are, or flesh them out a bit. Fair enough? All right. Anybody have any concerns, questions, comments before we jump into this? And I can't see all the hands, so I always rely on the city to help, and your voices, your beautiful voices. So speak up. Okay. So I am now going to read through, and pardon me for doing this to you, but I'm going to read these. So for diversity in schools, number 1, and they're only numbered, not in any order of precedence or receipt. Just I had to put numbers to them, once I did the 3rd data scrub on this. City Commission, the City Commission's a DEI, which is Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, and Restorative Justice Task Force comprised of educators, students, and parents representing all Petaluma schools. So it's a DEI, a City Commission DEI task force pertaining to the schools. Number 2, review hiring practices to ensure the recruitment of a more diverse workforce, ethnically, racially, culturally, and linguistically. 3, city councils should use the pandemic relief funds and partner with our schools in our city to confront disparities that students and their parents contend with in Petaluma. So using the pandemic relief funds. 4, a permanent commission on race relations and public safety with a mandate to recommend a citywide standard for DEI in staffing and hiring. Now, I'm not quite sure how that pertains to the schools, but it's there, and I had to report the data as it is. 5, the new permanent commission on race relations and public safety should engage school administrators, parents, community groups, and local agencies to identify successes and gaps in DEI initiatives for staffing and hiring. The commission should recommend a citywide standard to create an enduring model for Petaluma. 6, youth-led restorative justice program. Building upon the restorative practices training for teachers and staff that the Petaluma School District has engaged in with Circle Up, the Youth-Led Restorative Practices Initiative would provide training to students and to a school program coordinator to formulate and guide student-led restorative practices. 7, all Petaluma public schools would provide multiple site-based school-wide assemblies that recognize Diversity Heritage Months. 8, a city would offer a stipend to attract underrepresented groups to schools. And I'm not quite sure what that means. So when we get to the conversation, if somebody who offered that wants to explain it. City to offer financial support to the schools to provide diverse education materials. We also have to talk about that because the schools and the city are somewhat separate. Encourage K through 12 schools to develop a life skills program that includes DEI age appropriate curriculum. Schools work with local social justice / community building organizations to bring diversity / inclusivity training to schools. 12, the city should fund restorative justice work to expand its reach and scope in the schools. 13, ensure that both staff, teachers, and educational material reflect diversity. 14, revisit the $8.3 million spending proposal and redirect some of the city hall renovations to help increase diversity, awareness, and visibility in our schools. Okay, so that is the whole shebang. So discussion, thoughts. I'm not going to do a roll call on this because this is a conversation. So thoughts, comments?
So Eric has his hand up first, followed by Ramona, who has a physical hand up.
Okay, Eric.
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify number 4. I believe that's pulled from my submission.
Okay.
A permanent commission on race relations and public safety with a mandate to recommend a citywide standard for DEI in staffing and hiring. The context missing is that in our town, there's several entities that have a sort of a more advanced diversity, equity, and inclusion programs than the city.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea is that this permanent commission would actually go review that, like Petaluma City Schools, Tide, MBOP, and others, and take a look at the better practices happening in the city and make that into a citywide standard that can then be relied on by all entities in Petaluma. That's the context missing.
And Ramona Faith.
Yeah, my question is, what authority does the city have to tell the schools what to do?
That was my question.
I mean, we're sitting here saying what the schools need to do. I don't think the
That's why I
city.
didn't send in a proposal for the same reason.
Yeah, I mean, I think we just need to be clear that some of these may be a recommendation that the schools consider, but we can't demand what the schools should do or will do. So that's just a clarifying question. And I mean, I think that the students, the teachers, the parents are critical, but I also, I want to go back to what I said in the beginning. There's a community-wide need. It's not just focused on schools.
Tracy, you're on mute, by the way.
Okay, my internet went out and I don't know what's going on. It sometimes does that recently. So I'll have to keep coming back in if it does it. But I missed some of what Eric said. I don't want you to repeat the whole thing. It's where I died, if I may, is when you said it was taken, there was more context to it than that.
Correct. Essentially, the permanent commission, it relates to the schools because the city should set a standard for DEI by looking at better practices which are already in place at schools in Petaluma, such as Petaluma City Schools and other organizations.
Okay.
So that's how it relates, and it's reflecting the conversation we just had, which is I'm not sure what the city, sort of what power the city has over the schools. So it's more about setting a standard that other folks can follow and kind of collaborating.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you. And Ramona, I'm sorry. I heard, I came back in at the tail end of, I think, your discussion, which I think you said that this is something that's required throughout the city, not just in the schools, and that the city doesn't really have the power to mandate that. Did I hear that correct? You're muted. Can't hear you. Yeah.
Yes, my question was, what if I don't believe the city has authority over schools? So the city can't tell the schools what they need to do or what they need to implement.
Mm-hmm.
I think the proposal would be what we would recommend the schools to consider, but I want to go back to my original comment in the first two sessions, was that this is a community-wide need, not just a school need. So anyway, that was my feedback.
All right, thank you. And right now we are talking specifically about the schools. So, yeah, okay. So we have administrators here from the schools. We'd all would love to hear from some of you as well.
So Tracy, we have Zyra followed by Joel.
Okay. Hi, Zyra.
Hello, thanks everyone. So my recommendation, I agree. The short answer to Ramona's, question is no, the city doesn't have authority over the schools. The schools obviously is definitely different. The thing that I think is worth repairing here is the city partnering up with the schools. So the recommendation that mine was that city council extend this ad hoc committee, who are already made up of, school representatives. The schools are already doing the work. We have, this committee is already in a diverse group. We have healthcare reps, and it's just, we don't need to reinvent the wheel. What the city can do is help funds the programs that are already existing, like Petaluma Blacks for Community Development. They just now did a mentorship for Black teens and tweens. So I think if the city can use those ARPA funds into investing that mentorship, that definitely helps out build or gap that racial disparities. So that's just my recommendation. Also teachers, our teachers need support. Our schools already funded other things, which I had originally laid out. So if the public wants to know, it's obviously public record. I also submitted in a public comment that folks can also follow through. But we don't need to represent or reinvent the wheel. Teachers need support. They need at-home kits, especially during this COVID time with in-person. It's $12 per test. So that's done twice a week. That's $100 per month. If we can use the remaining ARPA funds, we can invest back into the community, whether they're teachers, childcare, that's definitely needed. So that's just my recommendation, is to allow this ad hoc committee to allocate those remaining funds.
Okay. Thank you. Aaron, do others have their hand up?
Yes. So Joel's next, followed by Ted.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Aaron, and thank you, Tracy, for being back here with us.
Oh, thank you.
So I'm a local educator. I'm a 22-year-old. I'm a 22-year educator here in Petaluma. My whole career spent here. And my recommendation was actually 7 on our diversity in schools. And I wanted to provide a little background because I really appreciated Ramona's question. I thought it was a very valid question. And I also want to say I really appreciate Zyra's public comment that she added. I fully support her proposition about using those funds in a way that could benefit all the students of Petaluma. So let me first begin by kind of echoing what Zaira said, which is the Petaluma City Council cannot dictate to the schools what we're going to do. That is absolutely correct. But we can become partners. And I want to kind of clarify my idea of, which was number 7 on the compiled list that Tracy put together, which was that all Petaluma public schools would provide multiple site-based school-wide assemblies that recognize diversity heritage months. I do want to say that I do remember several meetings ago, someone bringing up the fact that, you know, we have to do more than just assemblies or celebrating the Black History Month or the Women's History Month or Hispanic Heritage Month or whatever it may be. I totally agree with that. But we have to start somewhere. And I think starting in the schools is the ideal place, especially in elementary schools. So if you read my recommendation and my idea, it kind of fleshed that idea out a little bit more. But what I really want to say is that there is a way that we could become partners with the city council. So the superintendents of Sonoma County, especially those in Petaluma, the Petaluma ones meet every month in something called a South County Consortium meeting, in which they discuss the needs of their special needs students based on their sites. These superintendents meet monthly, and in speaking with my superintendent, I asked, you know, can you talk about other issues besides just the issues that revolve our special needs students? He said, absolutely, there's always time to make some extra time for issues that affect the community. So I thought that's perfect. So that led me to the idea of creating this this opportunity for a partnership to expand upon the proclamations that our city already does within Petaluma. So I went back and I looked at the proclamations, and our city makes proclamations for LGBTQ plus Pride Month. They make it for Black History Month, Women's History Month, Hispanic Heritage Month. So to build upon these proclamations of the city, that can become a partnership with the schools, in which the schools then will build upon those proclamations by providing these monthly or based on the diversity heritage months, and which can expand over time. They can create these school assemblies, school experiences that really bring the diversity and equality education to the forefront with the kids. Now, obviously, in the one I laid out, it just was basic ones that we are normally representing, but also adding those that may be a little bit more on the political pole. LGBTQ Pride Month, Jewish American Heritage Month. But the main idea here is to bring the superintendents together to decide how are we going to go about this? What can we create in our districts? Most districts have leadership teams already established within their district or school sites that could easily encompass this idea, which then could be put into a subcommittee for teachers to create an assembly or connect with other districts, connect with other schools within their district to do these assemblies. And I think just in going with what Zaira was saying, you know, some of that money could be used for material resources that can be for the school libraries or the school classrooms. It could even be a partnership with PEF as well. So there's lots of opportunities here, I think, with beginning with the diversity heritage months to be recognized within the schools, and then building on from there when we see that there's more work that we need to do. So I just want to provide that clarification, but I also wanted to say thank you to Ramona for your question and to Zaira for your input.
Thank you, but I know Ted wants to speak. I do want to make a comment, or I don't know if it's a comment or a question, but I will say that as a woman of color, as a Black woman, and I know you're not saying that this is all we do, but it concerns me focusing on assemblies, because to me that seems like entertainment, performance, versus really, you know, critical race theory. I know that's like a hot topic and those are fighting words for some, but getting in and really doing the work is more than just one thing, than just having an assembly. And secondly, I'm not convinced that, particularly with DEI work, the people that need to help guide this are not necessarily the people that are in place now. And that's why you got some of the schools are using Circle Up, and other diversity work. And I've done a lot of work with school districts and the leadership teams. They work their off to get, just to teach, but then also in the administrative side. And with the leadership side, I'm concerned as the diversity consultant to the city that it wouldn't get the heft that it would need, nor would it have the guidance that's needed without some. And I'm not saying you're saying do this on their own, but I'm just saying you need that extra layer of gravitas added to it. So that's I just wanted to add that.
Yeah, and I totally understand that, but I guess as an elementary school teacher, I think more in the basic terms of how can I educate my students and the students of my school in regards to diversity and equality. And one of the first places we start is the school community. And then we build upon that within the classroom. So I just want to make clear, like, I'm not saying that an assembly is going to solve all the problems, but I'm going to say an assembly will cause an exposure. And unfortunately, I know there's some people out there, and I'm actually, as you say that, Tracy, I'm thinking about this now in a different way of my explanation. But I just feel like what I can do in my own voice, in my own school, my own district to empower my students and my community that's like the first thing that creates a conversation. So that's kind of why I brought that up.
That's a very fair point. So Rabbi Feldman.
Yes, thank you so much. I would like just to request the city attorney to comment on the notion. So many of these items include funding issues. And are these funding issues within the scope of the city to provide kits to the school to the teachers for testing, all the things that are referring funding here? What is what's that about? I mean, is that possible? But we shouldn't approve something that's not really possible in the system. So that's why I'm asking the question.
Tracy, would you like me to respond, or do you want to continue? Okay,
please.
So very briefly, to review the charge, just to quickly review the charge in general of this committee, it's to make recommendations to the council, who has not delegated any of its authority for allocating funds or committing funds of the city. But this body can recommend that the council does that. So that's how I think it's probably helpful to think about it, in terms of recognizing that this committee can't commit any funds whatsoever, but it can recommend that the council do so. And I'll just add quickly that the council, in particular because Petalum's a charter city, and the gift of public funds doctrine doesn't apply, has even broader authority than a general law city to allocate its funds, as long as it finds that there's a public purpose for that allocation. So this committee can make recommendations about use of city funds for the council to consider, and as long as the council finds, agrees that that's a good use in comparison with other competing uses, and finds there's a public purpose, and public purpose is conceived very broadly, and the courts defer to what the council finds with respect to that, then it can do so. So hopefully that's helpful in terms of how this committee can think about these kind of recommendations, even recognizing that the committee can't commit funding of the city. Thanks.
And just a quick follow-up, I think it's quick, which is, there's some specific sources of funds recognized in this list. Are there any restrictions? Are there any of those restricted funds, the pandemic funds, etc.?
There are lots of restrictions on those funds, and they may preclude some of these uses. We would have to look at that. It's very complicated. Some of
I know, that's why I'm wondering about mixing in that. So, okay, thank you.
So that we'd have to look at. Thank you.
Yep, thank you, Aaron.
Okay, and I think, as I see it, Sanja, Hanan, and then Eric, is that about right? Aaron?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So Sanja?
Yeah, thanks, everybody. Just wanted to clarify that, number one, in a school district, the board governs the school district, identifies the what, right? And the district staff would be able to work with, city, community to determine the how. And so going back to, I think it was Ramona, forgive me if it wasn't, was saying earlier about the collaboration needed across the board and thinking about community-wide efforts and what goals that the city has could be aligned to the goals that a school district has, and how we sort of build this triangular approach of what's happening at the home, what's happening at the school, and what's happening in the community. I think is really should be the focus of us as a committee in terms of what we push for and of our recommendations. Because I will tell you that as a school district, my reach and my circumference, right, of control only goes so far in terms of what we do with students. And so the last thing I'll share is that you guys might have heard of an author called Paul Gorski, and he teaches about avoiding racial equity detours. And I think it is about like falling into the pitfalls of trying to, this can be a lot more simple than what we are trying to design, right? So if we think about the triangle approach, what happens at home, what happens at school, what happens in the community, and really trying to distill what's at the heart of our issues around diversity, equity, and inclusion. A lot of what we see happening across our city, in and out of our homes, in our schools, and what walks through our school doors and affects our schools really is our inability as an entire community to sort of have this direct confrontation with racial inequities, right? It bleeds over into everything. And I think, having that courage, I think having that as the foundation, we can really see what approach we want to take to really make that triangle strong, is really what I wanted to share. We could pick a lot of these different things, but what's really going to focus on that triangle approach and what's really at the core of that foundation of directly confronting racial inequities that we see persistent, right, in our community.
So direct confrontation of the issues versus indirect or roundabout ways that don't really get at the heart. Is that?
Yeah, because what Gorski tells us is that we take these detours.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So a lot of the things that we see on this page could really be a detour, right? Because as people, as humans, we're really afraid to talk about the heart of the matter. Right. So that's what I wanted to share.
Thank you. Hanan?
Hi.
Hey.
So, how are you?
Well.
So I am recommending, number one, I'm recommending that the city commissions a DEI and restorative justice task force comprised of educators, students, and parents representing all of Petaluma schools. But I'm also recommending that this task force be an arm of the multicultural center separately from the school district or school management. And it will be offered as a resource to the schools, but ran entirely independently. so that they will have a presence on campus, but not representing themselves as a part of the Petaluma City School District. They will be satellite multicultural centers on the school campuses, providing resources and support, things such as posters and school art reflecting student population, funds for diverse books in classrooms, documentary screenings, and cultural dance and clubs. I was a teacher at Petaluma High School, and then I was also a sub throughout Petaluma City School District. I experienced firsthand what our students of color, how they are treated by their white peers and also by the teachers. There was an incident where I was co-teaching an English class, and about 50% of the students were students of color in that particular class. And myself and the other teacher were noticing a lot of racist comments being said to these students as we were trying to address the political atmosphere right before Trump was elected president. We decided to have our students read a book called Tortilla Curtain, which addressed racism, and our students of color came to us and they were really upset. They didn't want this topic to be brought up because they didn't feel safe in the school talking about this topic. I noticed that there was no art reflecting any of our cultural diversity with the students anywhere in the hallways. I didn't see any cultural dance clubs being platformed. So I really think that yes to some of the normal things that schools do, but I think it's like digging in deeper and like weaving culture into like the fabric of the school. And I want to say it really starts with getting teachers to talk about racism and to feel comfortable talking about racism, because I've heard a lot of white teachers just say, I'm not comfortable talking about racism. So we need to make sure that we're giving those teachers resources and not make the assumption that they're racist. I'm not going to assume they're racist because they can't talk about racism. I'm going to assume they don't have resources, they don't have training, they don't have experience, they don't have exposure. So as a community, we need to make sure our teachers are gaining that. And I think if we do that separate from the city school district, we'll have a lot more power and freedom to be able to affect change. Thank you.
And I want to chime in here because the schools are no different than any other entity whether a particular teacher is racist or not, or administrator is racist or not. It's almost not the issue. It's the systemic racism that is really the issue. I don't spend my time when I do this work trying to parse out who is or who isn't racist, unless you get in my face or a client's face with something that's so blatant, but then they're going to be in HR, right? The issue is how do you have to have the courage to push these conversations, to push them, because you will get pushback. I bet my house on it. You're going to get pushback. And so it takes courage. And I think there have to be structures in place that support that courage. Otherwise, this is, a waste of time, frankly. So,
I'm going to build on that, Tracy, too, because also as a teacher who comes from a Muslim heritage and who is also queer, I can't count how many times I've had another teacher come to me and say, hey, this student said this thing in front of me, it's homophobic, can you talk to them? And so we need to stop looking at our to our queer staff members and to our staff members of color to be the only ones who know how to talk about these issues.
That's 100% right. So I think there's another layer here that we should consider is whatever we put forth to the council, there has to be some sort of training about how you have these conversations, how you do this work, how we train people to do this work, so you don't have the few people of color or queer people or whatever the identity is with carrying the burden, because the burden is not on us solely, it's on all of us, and we have to figure out ways and means that burden is carried by everyone. So I think, who was next? Aaron, I don't want to go out of order.
Can I just say, Aaron, it was Anthony's been waiting for quite a while.
Okay.
And Lou, who we haven't heard from, and apologies, I see Eric and Ramona's hands up again. But I just want to make sure that we're hearing from folks that we haven't heard.
No, thanks, because I can't see it's hard to see everything.
I've been monitoring it, so thank you.
Thank you. So it'd be Anthony followed by Lou.
All right, good evening, everyone. And no, this was not a setup. I just wanted to say, echo everything that Zara had said previously. If you didn't have a chance to read her public comment, it's got a lot of details on how we can accomplish some of these things. Also wanted to acknowledge what some of our other committee members have talked about, whether the city can tell the school districts what to do. Hopefully that's not how this is coming across. Hopefully it's coming across as recommendations to take what Zyra talked about, Joel talked about, Anon talked about. How can we better partner, the city better partner and support the schools? And that's really all I wanted to say. I know we got a lot to get through. Just really think that it's important that we're not asking the city to tell the school. We're just making some recommendations. We are tasked to come up with big, hairy, aspirational ideals. That's what we did. Knowing that all of them can't possibly go through, but if we don't dream it, we can't even get to it. So let's talk about it. Let's put a bunch of stuff on the board. And if we can't do it, fine. But there's some things that we're going to be able to do and get us to a better place. That's all I got.
Well said. Well said. Okay. Next, who was it? Aaron?
Lou.
Okay.
Yeah, so what Hanan was saying about teachers getting training about how to talk about race and DEI stuff, my understanding is that's what the district contracted with Circle Up to do. And I tried to actually to find out a little bit something about the status of that work before the meeting, but I was not able to do that. So I don't know if there's anyone in the group that knows something about that, how that's going or how far it is, or whether I'm right or not about that. That's actually that is the training that Circle Up is providing to administrators and teachers. I think that's what it is. And then the second thing I wanted to say was I was really interested in what Sanjay said about, doing things, recommending things that are really going to make a difference. And I was curious, Sanjay, if there are things on the list that you feel are like that are in this document.
I think, Sanjay, are you still here? She's off camera now. I think she had to step away for a moment.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Was it Eric or Ramona? Aaron, you go ahead because I'll get.
We have more people with their hands raised. So I have Eric, followed by Hanan, followed by Ramona.
Okay.
I do have Faith raising her physical hand as well.
Okay.
I can be quick. I'm just noticing some groupings here, and it's reflecting what a whole lot of people are saying. It seems like number 3 and 14, which are basically about redirecting some of the ARPA funds, which are supported by 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12, which are all funding ideas. That seems like a really nice overlap and what a lot of folks are saying. So I'm just reflecting that, and I support many of those ideas. And then 4 and 5 are both about permanent commissions. And one is the task force, which Hunan did a great job explaining. So that they're not totally overlap. They do different things, but the concept of making sure that these ideas, these big, hairy goals kind of that we're talking about have legs because we're putting some institution behind it, I think is really, really important and coming out in this list. So that's all I wanted to say.
I think that's a keen observation, and they're all listed here. Trust me, I had probably 70 ideas that I had to cull down, into this. And I think that keep in mind that I think we want to, as you noted, Eric, there's subtle differences, right? But when you see the full homework, they may not be so subtle. So that's why I want to keep them. I don't want to group things. I want us to vote on separate, right? Because people did a lot of work on each of these ideas. So. Okay, thank you. Aaron, who's next?
Ramona, followed by Faith.
Okay.
Just real briefly, the Petaluma Healthcare District works very closely with the schools. And I've been in conversation with Matthew Harris, the superintendent of Petaluma City Schools, as well as Old Adobe. And they do have Circle Up programs in some of the schools, but it's not consistent across all schools in Petaluma. One of the challenges that we've identified, and the superintendents agree, that each school sometimes has various programs, and it would be nice to have a standard program throughout. But what we've done at our meetings is that we start just little snippets of information. We're still in the process of increasing awareness. So we're doing TED Talks on some microaggressions and TED Talks on different things, and it's raising awareness and it's helping to stimulate conversation, which is what I think we need to do community-wide. So when we talk about a lot of the training, I think we really need to pull back and figure out where people are. So it kind of concerns me when I hear people, we need to confront things. Well, we need to be careful how we confront, because we need to first, raise the awareness and give people the tools and the skill set to be able to address issues the way that the issues should be addressed. So I think there's not one way of addressing this. There's many different ways that we need to approach it based on where people are. So I do like number 7. I think celebrating diversity through Heritage Months is great. That's one component of a larger program. And where do the teachers have the opportunity to have these discussions? They don't. They're busy all day long in school, taking care of doing their work. So we really have to figure out a way to be able to carve out the time to be able to allow people to have conversation. Thank you.
Yeah. And to that point, just from a diversity, equity, and inclusion sort of point of view, yes, you have to meet people to a point where they are, but a lot of the purpose of this work is to push people past where they think they can go. Because we as people of color or queer people, we don't have the option of saying, I don't want to deal with this today. We deal with it. It's in our lived bodies every day. So it's okay to make people uncomfortable. And I think we have to remember that. And as a person who does change management work in organizations, I get that you just can't come in sometimes with the bull, in the China shop. People shut down. There's a fine, what am I saying? There are techniques to pull people in, but in some cases it's much more urgent, and it has to be a much more direct conversation, because we're talking about breaking through systemic issues. And that requires sometimes maybe a velvet sledgehammer. Sometimes you have to take the velvet off, figuratively speaking. I'm not advocating violence, but I just want us to keep in mind that, yeah, we meet people where they are, but we also need to help take them where they need, and they and society needs to go. Who was next?
Faith, followed by Zyra, followed by Hanan.
Okay. Hey, Faith.
Hello. I have been listening for a while here on a lot of this, and I think that a lot of it has a lot to do with some of the issues that are there. But I took this a little further for myself. I actually researched information on each of the school districts that we have within Petaluma. And I looked at their compositions as far as students of color versus white students and staff. And I think the Petaluma City School had the largest report that they did in 2019. And the report showed a lot of what I had already read. Like in 2018, a study from the Learning Policy Institute found that having teachers of color increased the academic performance of students of color. A lot of what was in that report was there, but nothing has been done to increase the number of Black and brown teachers in our districts. And for me, that's a part of the problem. That's one of the real problems, because our children of color are not getting to see people at school that look like them. And Sanjay brought up a really good point about the triangle: the home, the school, the community. And you can give people classes all you want, and you can bring in all of the information you want, but unless there's a real desire to make a change, it's not going to happen. And so we need to look at those reports that the districts have done, especially Petaluma City Schools, because all of our elementary schools go into those schools that are there. And so what are they doing with that report that they did? I think it was 2019. How are they making changes in that school and stuff? It's true that the city does not control the school district, but we can make recommendations. And we as parents, the home and stuff, we can start to say, we want to see more people of color in our schools. And it's just not teachers, it's staff. The reports are out there. They show teachers, staff, everybody. And it's sad that you've got all of these kids out there, Black and brown kids out there. They don't have anybody in their schools that look like them. My kids went through 12 years of school here, and they not one of them had a Black teacher. Not one.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why it's been so important for me to get out there in the community and do some of the work.
Mm-hmm.
Sanjay gave us the truth. It is the home, the school, and the community. We've got to work together.
Mm-hmm.
And we've got to stand up and say, let's stop all of the crap about the classes and all that. Let's get down to business and get some of those teachers in here. And there are things that can be done. You might go to the colleges and stuff and do stipends. You might do other things to bring people here. But unless you want to make the changes, you don't make changes. You can do all of the classes you want. And it's just not going to make a difference. And I'm fed up with it.
Thank you, Faye. Aaron, who's next?
Tracy, I want to jump to Mike since you guys started talking yet.
Okay.
Before going to Zaira and Hanan again.
Okay.
Thanks a lot. I was just going to say that, perhaps, and I understand that the point of this is to come up with big, hairy, audacious goals. And so I think a lot of us are sort of trying to come at this from the standpoint of what can we be doing? What should the schools be doing? What are ideas that we can give them to hopefully move this along? But I think possibly, sort of riffing off the point that Sanjay had made earlier, maybe we need to look at this from the other direction and say, go into this with the assertion that the school districts, the educators, that they all want a lot of the same things we want. What are the barriers? What's stopping them? What's preventing them from moving forward with this stuff? Is it funding that's preventing them? Is it training and education and having the right tools? Is it a concern about pushback from parents and other political entities? I think maybe if we knew more about what's stopping them from moving forward, we could actually help give them better ideas or recommendations about how to move past those blockages.
And Mike, if the group recommends to the council to create some sort of commission, that looks at this, that could be part of their listening tour, right? Is to go to the different school districts or schools and ask, conduct qualitative interviews. What is in the way? What, is it lack of will? Is it lack of resources? Time, money? What is it? And really not assume that they know the answer. So it's a thought. Okay, go ahead, Aaron. Run the the hands, because I'll get them out of order, and then people will start making mean faces.
Zaira, followed by Hanan.
Okay.
Thanks. Yeah, I won't take too much, but again, I do like what Superintendent Lowry said, which was the home. But something that we have to face is funding. Without funding, we can't do surveys. There's also burnout, right? We can't be asking volunteers to do certain things,
right?
Because you need funding. So, to edit my recommendation is allow for a committee, a commission to use those ARPA funds in order to fund a survey so we can task out, because this is the lack that the city does have, is it only does a checkbox of, okay, we did the survey and we reached out, but it doesn't necessarily meet where our community is at, right? I just did a listening circle for the Spanish community for the climate change. And honestly, they didn't know that this was happening. They're still in the dark of not getting that information, because whether we like to admit it or not, is unfortunately these boards don't look like us. And that's what's lacking, is representation. But something that also easily kind of spread awareness, it's free, is pronouns. All right, you want to educate folks, write your pronouns on your title. That's how that's visibility right there. Land acknowledgement, that's free visibility right there. So boards, commissions, whether you're in healthcare, whether you're in schools or whatever, you can easily do that at a meeting by acknowledging land. That's visibility, and that's free. Writing your pronouns is free. But funding to understand why we need pronouns, I mean, we need money, and that's tapping into the city. I mean, so that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Hanan?
Yeah, I wanted to respond to a few things that I heard, again, coming from the perspective of a teacher. I do currently work in Marin County. I was invited to be to join a cohort of teachers of color. And the vision of this cohort is to find ways to up the percentage of teachers of color in Marin County. And at researching, but I think it's fairly well known, a lot of the challenges for that is funding. A lot of, I'm going to take myself, as a daughter of an immigrant, I grew up very poor. And so going to college, that's a big thing. I don't have anyone that could pay for college for me. When you're thinking about becoming a teacher and not knowing that you're not going to get paid very much, and knowing that your college is not going to be paid for, that's a huge decision to make. And so if we want to look at that issue, then we really need to think about scholarships for kids of color, students of color who are interested in becoming teachers, so that it's expensive to become a teacher, grad school. So I think if that's something we really are serious about wanting to change in Petaluma, we need to look at scholarships, and we need to look at talking to students in high school and middle school about that as a possibility for them. I also want to add, teachers do get professional development time. I know that when I worked at Petaluma High, I think every Wednesday was a half day. I think it was Wednesdays were half days for students, and we had that time. We would have all staff meetings, and then we would have department meetings. Only one time was racism ever brought up, and that's when I heard teachers saying that they weren't comfortable talking about racism. And I do want to say that last year, I have several students who are queer, trans, and I had a trans student that a staff member kept misgendering, and that student was in the bathroom crying and felt really unsafe. And I had to have a very, very hard and serious conversation with that staff member. We have a responsibility that surpasses anyone's comfort level or preferred growth rate when it comes to protecting the safety of our students.
Yeah. Thank you, Hanan. Who was next, Aaron? Are there any more hands up?
No, that was the last hand raised.
I don't believe it. I don't believe it. Okay, so one last call here. Any other comments or thoughts or questions? This is good because you all are really my family's from Louisiana, and you're working the gumbo here. You're adding in all the spices and the layers, and that's what gives you that fabulous taste and feel and spirit about it. So if we have time because you all did such a great job with the homework. We have time. We might even finish early tonight. Woo. But so really, I want to encourage anybody else that hasn't spoken up to chime in here. Even if you have a contrary point of view, that's fine. So Aaron, you see anybody?
I do not.
Okay. All right. So I will, hear that. And what we will do now is let's see what happens when we do this vote. This will be interesting. Yes.
I do have Joanna with her hand raised now.
Oh, I didn't even know she was here. Joanna Pond?
No. Johanna Garcia.
Garcia? Okay.
Everybody calls me Johanna, but my real name is Joanna.
Okay.
Sorry,
Hi
Joanna.
there.
It's okay. So I just wanted to say I 100% agree with what Faith was saying. I've lived in Petaluma my whole life, and I went to all like the Petaluma schools, and I think I only had one teacher who was a person of color, and I would have loved to see more teachers or staff that were like represented what like our classes looked like. And so my recommendation is same as Faith. Just
Okay.
Diverse representations in schools.
Thank you. Representation matters. What people see shapes their aspirations and beliefs. Others? Anyone else?
Joel.
Hey, Joel.
Hey, I just wanted to say, you know, from working in my district, one of the things that I noticed being on several interview committees is the lack of affordable housing within the city limits. You know, I would say so many of our candidates that we have had that maybe were people of color or very qualified to hold the job couldn't afford to live where we teach. And so I really am concerned about that in terms of bringing diversity and equity within our community. I know that this is, as a beginning teacher, most beginning teachers in their very first year don't make above $36,000, maybe $40,000. And that's, you know, equates to a couple thousand, $3,000 a month. So it's a lot to live here in this area and not have to suffer through the commutes that are all around us, especially in this small little funnel of Petaluma Valley here. So that's one of my concerns. I think we could really work with, or I think the community should really develop some more communities that are affordable for teachers of diverse backgrounds, even people of Caucasian descent, which are just trying to get into the housing market as well. I think that's a major issue for drawing people from other communities into our own community. And I know Sonoma State finally has a place where their professors can live near the Sheraton Hotel, which is just for Sonoma State teachers. I think that's absolutely fantastic. But the other thing too, I want to say is just because you're a teacher, I don't think it should force you to have to live in one certain place. Like I know when I was beginning to be a teacher, I had things that I could be offered, but it's like, you could live here or here. Those are your choices. Teachers, unfortunately, don't make enough money to be able to afford very much in the Bay Area. And so I think that's another piece that's in conjunction with this problem of having the inequity and the lack of diversity within our community because of the extreme prices of housing in our district and in our city, excuse me, too. Yeah.
Thank you. I saw Faith's hand.
Yeah, and that's part of the issue, Joel, and I totally agree with you on that. And I loved your number 7, by the way. But that's where the city can come into play, or somebody, you know, the city can come into it, is with incentives and stuff for teachers and things. This is where we can help our community. This is community working together, getting us in a place where we can have that diversity. We have people moving here. There have been people here for a long time of color. So let's bring in teachers. It's not just the housing, but it's the education. What if we went to some of these Black colleges and stuff and gave those people scholarships or incentives or some kind of thing that would benefit them to come to this area? We've got to start to think about stuff like that instead of just sitting and thinking about, well, we can do this or we can do that and we can have this class. If a white teacher is not interested in some of these classes, they can sit there for days and get nothing from it and never change.
Right. This is true. Okay, thank you. Any more comments?
Tracy, we have Joe with his hand raised.
Okay. Hi, Joe.
Joe, you're on mute, by the way.
It was mentioned, I think, by Lou or Joel, I'm not sorry about that, but they were talking about the fact of being on committees or commissions where they were interviewing for hiring and what have you, and it had a lot to do with the cost of living in the area. I agree with the cost of living. However, I don't know as much maybe about the Petaluma School District, but you have a lot of teachers there. Are the teachers there? They've just been here a long time. Are you hiring any new teachers? Because if you're hiring new teachers, that doesn't make sense that you would only have white teachers. It just doesn't add up. You would also have teachers of color within there because the cost of living is high for anyone who gets hired. But if you're hiring one set and you're not hiring the other one, as Mike mentioned, there's a barrier there somewhere, and we need to look at that. So maybe that's part of the problem. You tell me, are all the teachers that are being hired, are they teachers from Petaluma who've been here all their lives, or are you hiring any young teachers?
So Tracy, we have Joel and then Hanan.
Okay.
I think, Joe, that was an excellent question to ask, because I will say I've sat on many interview committees. I will tell you in our district, so for those people who don't know, Petaluma actually has several elementary school districts. Some of us are a lot smaller. So the biggest is Petaluma City Schools. Then you have Old Adobe Schools. Then you have, I believe, our school district, which is the WA School District, only 2. And then you have Cinnabar, you have Liberty, I think you have Cherry Valley. So in Petaluma, we actually have a lot of smaller districts that only really communicate really through those superintendent meetings and the South County Consortium. So that's one thing I want to say. The thing that I want to say in terms of what Joe said is, of all the interview committees I've sat on, I've never once in our district had a person of African-American descent. We've had teachers who are Asian American. We've had teachers that are Hispanic American. I am the only LGBTQ plus person in our district. So our district, luckily, and I'm so happy that our district did a diversity training in our district. A lot of our teachers have taught there 20 years or more. So to go with what you said, Joe, depending on the district, there could be a lot of retention there with teachers that have taught for a very long time. And with that comes, as I believe Hanan said, some fatigue and some wearing because of everything that's compiled on top of us. But what I want to say is, I want to find out, how do we bring in more people of color? How do we bring in more LGBTQ people within our school districts and attract them to our city, even in the smallest districts, to make it an equal representation as much as we can of what it should be and what our community has out there. So that's actually a challenge for me that I try to work with our amazing superintendent, Mike Gardner, now, who really, with our team that we have now, is really looking about diversity and inclusion and equity, and how do we bring that to our small little 2 elementary school district in the Upper East Side of Petaluma, because everybody deserves that diversity, the equality, and the inclusion. So that's actually something that we're working on as well. So I really appreciate, Joe, you bringing that question to our committee, because it's an important one.
And I think it goes back to thank you, Joel, what Sonja was saying, with this triangle of home, school, and community, because, I am obviously not speaking for all teachers. I'm not a teacher, but people of color or LGBTQ people or whatever. But okay, so maybe you recruit them, but then when they look around the city, are they going to want to come? When they hear some of these issues. So that's why this ad hoc committee here is, we're looking at at everything, right?
It is vital.
Yeah, it's vital. It's vital. So I see some I think it's Hanan, and then I think I saw Kenyatta, and then Claudia de la Pena. So Hanan.
Yes, Joe, I wanted to address the question of hiring more diverse teachers. When I did work at Petaluma High School for 2 years, one of those years, I shared a classroom with the only Black teacher aside from an athletic coach on campus. There were incidences where students wrote the N-word in our classroom wall or on the hallway on the way to our classroom, and nothing was done. Nothing done to help that teacher feel safe in her own classroom. I didn't feel at all integrated, welcome. I felt like a complete outsider as a Middle Eastern person and a queer person on that campus. I also know that we had a bilingual counselor, the only bilingual counselor working. She was a Latina woman, and she was let go without reason the same year I worked there. Phenomenal woman, advocated for our students of color. So it's not that there aren't teachers of color that have worked there, it's that they are not kept there. That's my opinion.
Thank you. Kenyatta?
Hi.
Hi.
Hi. Hanan, great segue. There was a school in Patton that had 2 African-American employees that got let go with the hiring intent to like bring in more people of color. So I think that's interesting, especially after reading Julia's homework. So I thought that was interesting comparison to the situation that happened and how we're not retaining those teachers. I currently teach PE at a school in Petaluma Elementary School, so I am the only, I guess, Black person that these kids probably will come across. So that school's probably the only one that will come across a Black teacher in Petaluma out of elementary school. But I like that district or the school the best because it has so many diverse teachers and students. And so when Joel was talking about why aren't we getting teachers of color to apply, I think it's because they're going to schools where they see themselves as well, right? So I was at a really affluent Catholic school. There was nobody that looked like me, right, except for the athletes, right? And so for me, I was like, well, I was an athlete in high school, but I also was a student. And so you get pigeonholed into these little boxes, I think, as a person of color. Like, what is, like, for me, I was like the athlete. I went to that school in high school, but I was actually a 4.2 student, and I actually got an academic scholarship before I got an athletic scholarship. So I think that the teachers that look different, or like, I guess, to this community, right? So they're like the BIPOC and the brown and Black teachers and Asian teachers, they're going to schools where they feel like they'll make a difference, and that's not in Petaluma. So I think they're out there, but I think, like Tracy said, if they're going to come here and see all this malarkey, they're not going to want to stay.
No, I never said malarkey.
I just made that up. Malarkey. Well, I don't know. I don't even know like a kind way to put this nonsense. I don't even know. I use malarkey as my kind word.
because Eric will be texting me in about 2 minutes, and rightfully so. Okay. All right. Claudia.
Hi, good evening, everyone. So I've been listening, and I appreciate I appreciate Joe and Faith and Mike and the questions that they presented pertaining to this whole situation. And I really appreciate Hanan's sharing the story that she just shared about, what happened with the teacher and not feeling safe. And I've been asking this question ever since I moved to Petaluma, and that is, does the city actually really want diversity? Does it really want change? I've heard stories of people of color, specifically African Americans, moving to Petaluma, and the realtor trying to reroute them and get them to, go to Santa Rosa instead, or African Americans who are looking to live on the west side, but the realtor sends them, tries to get them to buy on the east side instead. And then let's look at our housing situation and how it's being handled. The developers that are coming here and that are being allowed to build, and who are they building for? And it's not, in my opinion, it's not necessarily for people of color. So, you know, my question is, does this city actually want diversity? Because if it doesn't, then I'm all for making recommendations, but if our local officials, if our local government is going to continue to do business with some of the developers and some of the individuals that are helping to keep the status quo, then, you know, we have a pretty hard road ahead of us. And I'm not saying don't do the work, but, you know, let's be honest.
Okay. I mean, and well, you know, I was working on with another client today, and I don't know if any of you guys know the book Good to Great. It's like a classic business book, and I really recommend it. Just in general, it's really a good read. And one of the things they talk about is the importance of looking at and accepting brutal facts. And you know, we have to look at why. I mean, it's very complex, right? It's not a one off. You can recruit teachers, but A, can they afford the housing? B, do they feel comfortable here? Do they see enough diversity to say, hey, I want to live here, or feel welcome enough that, oh, I don't mind if I'm one of a few because I feel welcome. And I'm not answering those questions. I'm saying that those are questions we have to look at and take into consideration. Others. Now, Aaron, help me with the order here. I don't want to.
Yeah, the next person I have is Zyra.
Okay.
Yeah, I think what you brought up, Tracy, is on point. I mean, I've been in Petaluma since 2015, and something that, just to add more context and more history to it, is y'all have not elected you elected your first Black school board member in 2018. So all of the things that we are now addressing has been from past administrations. Luckily, thank God, we have Joanna Pond that I wish she was here to address all of these concerns, because we're kind of dismissing the work that she's already put in place, and that what she's already done as a school board president. You know, and it goes back to what Tracy said, and actually what Kenyatta mentioned as well. Y'all, nobody who's Black or brown wants to work in schools in Petaluma because of the harassment that they've encountered in our community. And I repeatedly have heard that from 2015 up until now. But just to remind you, in 2018, you elected your first school board member in Petaluma. That says a lot in its own. And the immense harassment, the racism that is here in Petaluma, nobody wants to work in that environment. Folks get mad for school mask mandates right now. Who suffers the most? Those representatives that are brown or Black. Yeah. And housing, it's a big deal. I mean, folks aren't getting paid. So I think let's just kind of think about what we can do. Like, I get it. I would love more representation. Trust me, it took forever to get Petaluma to fly a pride flag. And it had someone that came in from Petaluma 2015 to email my city council members and say, hey, what are we doing with Pride Month? What year did that pride flag finally get raised? What was raised? We have a problem. And I mean, I hear y'all with the representation, but if we can't tackle the racism in our community, representation isn't gonna happen.
Thank you. Who's next?
And Claudia still has her hand raised.
Okay. So. I just wanted to clarify something from what I said earlier. Because my point about East Side, which the whole East Side, West Side, Petaluma thing, I'm from LA and it's just kind of crazy to me. It makes no sense. But just like when I hear people complain about traffic here, it's like, you have no idea you can't even spell traffic. But anyway, it's just the preconceived notion of certain people deciding they know where someone is supposed to live. And that's racist. So, you know, I mean, we're all saying it. There is a very high level of racism here in Petaluma. And that's why I say it just, for me, it begs the question, you know, does this city actually really want to change? And I think it needs to be honest and ask it.
Well, and that's a very valid question, Claudia. But whether the city wants to change or not, you all can make a difference and start that change. It doesn't have to be a something that everybody buys into. If it's important enough to you, change happens, and you know, from yeah, it can create, if it's done right, it creates its own momentum.
I agree.
And you know, I'm going to go back to one of my favorite book again, Good to Great. You know, the bus, the analogy in the book is getting the right people on the bus, meaning getting the right people in the organization, right? So here, and not everybody's going to want to get on the bus, and you're not going to want all of those people. I mean, in this case, the bus is, you know, racial and sexual orientation and, you know, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Not everybody's going to want to get on that bus, but the key is to make the bus powerful enough that it has an impact. That it doesn't matter if you've got some holdouts who don't want to get on it, but you make it compelling enough and powerful enough so that those that are on the bus can actually take the bus somewhere. Okay, I'm done with my bus analogy. Okay. All right, who was next?
Hainan.
Hainan, go ahead.
Claudia, I want to build on what you're saying because that's the question, right? I think there are a lot of people in this town who don't want change, and they're making it very known that they don't want change, right? From the student level on. But if we were able to put together a task force of parents and students and teachers who do want to advocate for change and put pressure on, in this case, the city school district. When I left Petaluma City School District, I left for a job that was posted specifically requesting diversity in a teacher. It was spelled out very specifically. That's what they were looking for. Do we have any job postings like that right now for teachers?
Okay. All right. So we need to wrap this up so we can, you know, start the voting process, because we still have to get to the Multicultural Center. So I see, how many more hands do we have?
Just Mike.
Okay. Mike?
The only thing I was going to say is the one thing that I think is missing from the recommendations we have so far, and it sort of gets a little bit back to a point I was making earlier about, you know, talking to the subject matter experts and figure out what is blocking or what is stopping some of this diversity and inclusion change. I think as a parent, I see a lot of influence from other parents. I think that parents will sometimes use the schools as a battleground for social and cultural issues, and can really put a lot of constraints on what the teachers can do, what the school districts can do, what the schools can do through that lens. And so that maybe that's a place where the city can partner with the school districts and with the schools to help get the parents out of the classroom, because I actually have more faith in the youth and more faith in our children to sort of discuss these things, debate these things, and come up with a more diverse and inclusive outcome. And I think it's the parents' involvement in the school that tends to distort that effort.
Okay. Thank you. All right. So are we good now, Aaron, to go to start taking some
Yes,
votes?
we are.
Okay. All right. So if I might have the city's help, we'll go in roll call order. You have 5 votes to allocate, however you'd like, to these 14 topics, however you'd like to do so. Aaron, Ingrid, are you ready?
Yes. Susie, are you ready for a roll call vote? And then also, just for the committee, if you please can go slow, just because it's tallying 5 different votes.
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay.
Perfect.
Let's go.
Great. We'll start with Joel Bruner DeKeen.
I just wanted to ask, I had my hand raised. I just want to ask if we could have just a few minutes to look over the things again, just to kind of refresh, to make sure everything is,
Sure, absolutely.
We've got our votes. Okay. Thank you.
Let's take 5 minutes for people that have, well, it's actually up on the screen. So let's take 5 minutes for people to go through. Okay. I'm going to be off camera, but I'm here for just a second.
Hey, Hannah, I see you have your hand raised.
I'm just proposing that we combine 14 and 3, since they both are have to do with funding.
I'll defer to Tracy when she gets back.
Tracy, are you back? She's not back. Tracy's back. Tracy, are you back?
I'm here.
As I pick my ones, I'm noticing that 14 and 3, just like Nan had just said, are similar. And I'm wondering if those can be combined, considering it's saying that we're reallocating money in order to fund some of the 1 through 13.
Somebody has good lungs. What is that? I love it. Okay. You said 14 and 3, right?
Yes.
My headset keeps falling out of my ear. I know I didn't lose weight in my head. Okay, let's see. I mean, it's very similar. I now, but I don't want to conflate something if I'm missing a point. So I actually can, I can see it's very similar. So what does anyone have an objection?
I don't have an objection since number 3 was mine, and I'm totally comfortable with pairing it up with 14.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else have any comments?
I support that, and as well, 4 and 5, unless I'm missing something, seem quite similar.
I'm just rereading. I'm looking at a print. I can't see that screen. Let's see.
I agree with Eric. I think 4 and 5 as well.
I agree as well.
So, my magical. Oh, Hanan, do you have your hand raised? Go ahead.
I do. I'm proposing that we combine 1 and 10 because 10 would fall under the umbrella of 1.
That one I'm going to push back on because 10 is very specific. You're right, it would come under it, but it's specific. And I don't want to subsume it under it because not everyone may agree with the specificity in it. So that one I'd like to leave out. Is that all right? Okay, that's the only reason. Somebody may feel very strongly about that.
This is a question for Ingrid. Could we, from what we said from like Eric, Hanan, Kenyatta, and myself, and combining things, could we get that in a separate screen somehow?
Hey, Zaira, that's going to be a little complicated just because it's a PDF.
Yeah.
Okay. Sounds good. I mean, I have it in mind, but just if folks needed visual. But
yeah, so we're talking 3 and 14.
14. Correct.
Let me do something real quick first.
Yeah, there are limits to technology, right? If we were in a room on a whiteboard, I could easily do this.
Yeah.
And what about 8 and 9 together? They're basically the same.
I'm okay with that. I brought that up. It's really about financial support. They could even go with 3 and 14, honestly. It's really about what support can the city provide to the schools. And those are a little bit more specific, but it all falls under the same umbrella.
Yeah.
And I like 3 and 14 better because it's funded.
Well, it seems like any of the other recommendations aside from 8, 9, 3, and 14 all require money. So really this doesn't mean anything until we know that we have money, right? So it's kind of a moot point. I don't know. It seems like I don't know. Unless there's funding, we're not doing any of these things. So
yeah, I don't know.
underscore
what you just said, Kenyatta. There's 3 and 14 are the funding that would empower like 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, which is awesome. I couldn't choose between all of those. And then 4 and 5, of course, they're very similar. So yeah, the visual does become hard, as Zaira said.
Tracy, my recommendation would be to take every proposed combination one by one and at least get a thumbs up if we have group consensus before making any changes, as if we go back and forth, it might get even more complicated.
I'm thinking about this. Here's what I'm concerned about. We do this every meeting, we can combine things. And in some instances, that's a good thing. In some instances, we can lose some of the nuance of an idea. And I don't want to do that. I really want to be careful. I actually am going to respectfully request that we leave it as it is, and you allocate your votes because you have 5 votes, right? So you got, it's a weighted vote. So you can if you feel strongly that some are that can be combined, you can allocate a vote to each of those. I understand that means you don't have a vote for something else, but in order for us to start moving things around, there are some subtle differences here. So I don't want us to conflate things. Okay, is it possible just to vote on as it is? Because also then Aaron, we've got to take time for Aaron to reconstruct things. And I would like to take a vote and see where we come out. will you all indulge me on that? Please? Okay, thank you. So let's not change it. Let's proceed with the vote. All right?
Tracy,
Yes.
Tracy, can I ask a question, please?
Yes.
Where in here is the triangle? I thought that was very well articulated, and it seemed like the group really,
It's not in there because it wasn't submitted in homework.
so does
And
that mean that we can put one out there? I can put that out there?
How would you put, what would the I absolutely understand Gorski's work and the point of the triangle, but my question, I'm conflating two different things. They're two separate things. I understand what Sanja's talking about the triangle. What would we put up here as an example, Ramona? Putting on the spot a little bit.
I'm just thinking that the city and the school community, which includes the students and staff and parents, and community organizations would, and then take some language up here, would help bring or bring diversity inclusivity training to the schools.
Isn't that number?
Yeah.
That's number 11, isn't it?
Yep.
Well, it says the schools will work with the local. It's not just the schools working with the local, it's the community working with the schools. It's everybody working together. It's not the schools working with them. It's we're all working together.
Right.
The school,
and
the city, the community.
But how do you, that is an aspirational concept in a sense, because so we vote on it. To me, it's too big to be a SMART goal. It can be a guiding principle or the foundation, but it's too big to be a SMART goal, I think. Now, you all can push back.
It also wasn't submitted, and you said last time if something's not submitted, it's not going to be counted for.
Yeah.
So let's move on.
Yep. Okay, so are we ready to vote as is?
Yes.
Okay. So Susie, are you ready?
I am. Yep.
Go ahead, please. Thank you.
Great. Alrighty, Joel, we'll start with you again.
All right. I'd like 2 votes for number 2, 2 votes on number 7, and 1 vote on number 9, please.
Thank you. Claudia de la Peña.
1, 2, 6, 11, and 13, please.
Ramona Faith.
1 on number 2, 2 on number 7, and 11. So what do I have left?
You have 1 more left.
All right, 2 on 11.
Got it. Rabbi Ted Feldman.
Yes, 4 on number 5 and 1 on number 10.
Thank you. Anthony Franklin.
1 on number 3, 1 on number 7, 1 on number 9, and 2 on 14.
Joanna Garcia.
For 12, 1 for 6, 1 for 3, and 2 votes for number 2.
Just a quick clarification, was that 1 on 12?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. So Aaron, it was 12, 6, 3, 2, 2. Zaira Garcia.
Because we need funding and I don't like reinventing the wheel of what's already done. 3 of my votes go for number 3 and 2 of my votes go for number 14.
Got it. Hanan Hunaidi.
1 vote for 1, 2 votes for 2, 1 vote for 3, and 1 vote for 14.
All right. Eric Leland,
2 votes for 3 and 3 votes for 5, please.
got it. Sanja Lowry, look and see if she's still with us. Does not look like she is. Let's see. Sadie Martinez, Julia Main,
1, 4, 3, 7, and 10. Thank you.
Thank you. Mike Miller,
2 votes for number 3, 2 votes for number 5, and 1 vote for number 7.
Joanna Pawn, Kenyana Reynolds.
Hi, I would like 1 vote for 2, please, 2 votes for 3, please, and 2 votes for 14, please.
Got it. Fabian Romo Macias. Faith Ross.
4, 5, 7, 8, and 9.
Okay. Mark Scott.
3, 7, 2 votes for 9, and 11.
Okay. Joe Sturdivant.
2 votes for number 2, 1 vote for number 5, 1 vote for number 7, 1 vote for number 9.
Okay. Risa Tinsley Green.
1 vote for number 1, 3 votes for number 6, and 1 vote for number 14.
Got it. Pedro Toledo.
All of my votes to number 2.
Got it. Okay. Catherine Wells.
Number 7, 2 votes for number 10, 11, and 12. That's 5, yeah.
Thank you. Aaron Wilkins.
One vote for 3, 3 votes for 5, 1 vote for 11.
Got it. Lou Zwire.
1 vote for 2, 1 vote for 5, 1 vote for 6, 1 vote for 8, and is that 4?
That's 4.
Okay. And 1 vote for 7.
Got it. And Tracy, we're done.
Okay, so how much time, Aaron and Ingrid and Susie, do you guys need to tabulate this?
A minute.
2 minutes.
Okay. All right, well, while they're, well, no, I'm gonna wait till they finish because we need to, something else has come up that we need to talk about. So I could sing to you all, but you'd quit and run to the hills and never come back. So we'll just allow a little downtime while they're tabulating, and then we'll look at the before. And what you guys just tell me once you're finished before you put up the screen, because I want to talk about something else briefly for a moment. How are people, while we're waiting, how are people feeling about getting back out there a bit, with, and doing things a little bit more socially? Are you all getting out a bit more, or just curious? Informal poll. You can come off mute.
I know I am, for sure.
Yeah. What's making you feel a bit more safe, Catherine?
A lot of the stuff I'm doing is still outdoors.
Yeah.
And indoors, it's, more kind of an open thing,
Yeah.
lots of room.
Yeah.
But a lot of stuff still outdoors.
Yeah. A lot of people are doing that. Others? Are you Faith?
I never stopped being active indoors and outdoors.
I can't imagine you not being active. Yeah.
Have too much to do.
Right. It's called be safe, be smart, but you gotta live.
I wear my mask. I ask if people are vaccinated, and I tell them to get out of my surroundings if they aren't.
Yeah, I had an incident where I went to the symphony and in the city, and I ran into a not a close friend but an acquaintance, and I didn't recognize her because she had her mask on. So she pulled it down. This was in the lobby, and she comes in. She's for a hug, and I said, I'm vaccinated, fully vaccinated. Are you? And she kind of, she said pretty much yes, gave me a hug. I find out later, another friend went to that she was not vaccinated. I was just like, really? Do I need to go find you? That's my issue, is that some people just, whether you're vaccinated or not, just be honest, be responsible for your compatriots. Are we ready, City? Or we still? I think they're doing their magic. Let me put this on full screen here. Okay.
And Tracy, we're done tallying. Ingrid's going to put it on a slide.
Okay, not yet. So while you're doing that, I want to make a comment about something. So while we were, and this is a difficult topic, but it's one we need to address. While we were having that conversation, so I'm sorry if I was a bit distracted, but one of the committee members was emailing me, and she frankly was unhappy with an exchange that just happened, and you all know I'm direct. So I'm just going to say what it was. And Kenyatta, hello, you can come off mute if you want. When you made the comment about specifically calling out Julia's homework.
Is it a public record?
What?
Her homework?
Oh, it is public record.
Okay.
It absolutely is. That, of course, that it's public record. But we want to be careful and not make anybody feel that their opinions don't matter, or somehow you didn't call out anybody else's homework. And
it didn't pertain to the information.
No, but hear what I'm saying. We just spent a lot of time, and we're not going to talk about this, and you all know what I'm talking about, right? The distraction that we dealt with because people they felt, as my daughter would say, some kind of way about another person that was on this committee and things that were happening that made them feel a certain way. So, and so what I'm saying is we need to be careful. If frankly, now, if you had said that to me, my personality is such that, frankly, I would have clapped back. I would have said, well, why are you calling out my homework? Okay.
Sorry. The only reason why I called out that I was just saying because of who she represents and went with what I was saying, and the homework didn't go with the homework of the people that she was representing. So I was just.
But she still has an opinion. And
I didn't say her opinion didn't matter. I didn't say it didn't matter. I said it was the opinion. I'm just saying it's interesting, the homework, given who she works for and who she's representing in this committee and what had happened to me.
Okay.
It had nothing to do with her personally.
Yeah, no, I understand that. But it happened to you.
Sorry, Julia.
Hold on, I'm still talking. I'm reclaiming my time for Maxine Waters. Okay. I'm actually going to get a little sign that says that, right? I understand that you are, in this case, speaking probably to the institution, right? And what happened to you.
I'm speaking to the fact that what we're talking about when we said that there are Black teachers and teachers that are not white, right? What we're talking about, not wanting to work at certain schools because of certain things and feelings and whatever. Right. So I was speaking to that.
Okay. All right.
Correct?
Yes, you did.
So I read through all the homeworks. Mm-hmm. So I was just bringing up a homework that pertained to that particular situation. And that is the only homework that pertained to that situation.
Right. But what I'm going to ask, hold on. What I'm
So I
going to ask.
apologize about bringing up, quoting a homework if I wasn't supposed to.
Because it can look like a personal attack.
It was not a personal attack, Julia. It was your homework. I just read the homework.
Julia, do you want to say anything?
I would just like it if we can just, whatever you've had in your experiences are going to be different than other people's, and it's going to be different than mine, and it's going to be different than future teachers there. So I just want to stay professional and work with the city of Petaluma. And I do feel like there's so much anger and so much resentment on a lot of different people here that it's not moving the needle forward. And I do feel attacked in the sense that you called out my homework, because it's not the point. I read everyone else's homework too. Some things I agreed with, some things I didn't, but we're here for the common good of the city. And that's what I would like you to keep in mind, because I think you're a bully and you're not kind. And
Ooh, now I'm a bully. So now we're gonna mute. Right, Tracy? We're gonna stop her because I'm now a bully. Like that was, I apologize. I said it wasn't personal, but now it's personal because you just called me a name. So I will respectfully mute and move on from this topic.
Well, okay, that's a perfect example of if we're trying to have an adult conversation moving forward. You cut off Tracy like 5 times and she's our moderator. It's not respectful and it's not kind.
Okay, I'm gonna stop this now. And I appreciate that comment, Julia, but nobody needs to take up for me. Trust me, none of y'all can shut me up. Okay, if I let you, it's because I'm letting you. You cannot do that. It is not in my DNA. Now, the second thing is, I'm direct. There is obviously an issue between the two of you, or one of you, or two of you. We will not allow bullying. I'm sorry you felt that way. Kenyatta is saying that was not her intention. I'm not inside of anybody's head. I don't know. What I am saying is, let's not call out anybody's specific homework, or let's be careful not to make it look like a personal attack. I'm sorry for what happened to you at St. Vincent's, Kenyatta. I know the story. I've talked to you. And
yeah, it was not personal. It was just, that was the homework that it related to.
I know.
That's all. That was it. I was not trying to be a bully. I was just quoting. It's like when you read a book and you quote a line. I was just quoting a scripture.
Okay, so
that was it. We can move on.
Let's agree that we will not refer to specific people and their homework, and their opinions. I mean, you can have a conversation and civilly engage them, but let's not make anybody feel bullied. I don't think that was your intention. Julia's saying she feels that way. You apologize. Can we move on and get back to the business at hand? Okay. All right. Thank you. So where are we now? All right. So y'all got me. I need a cocktail now. That's like, let's stay on point. Okay. So affinity grouping for, So, all right. Is there a way? Okay. Let me see. And the number 7 is the 4th one, right? It would rank number 4. Let's highlight 7. Yeah, that one. And let's also highlight, I guess it would be 14, right? That's the next highest. So if we rank them, 3 and 5 are tied. 1, number 2. Now, is there any way to transpose these numbers, or just pull out? It's a PDF. We can't do it. You know what I want to do? I want to see 2, 3, 5, 7, and 14, just those 5 on the screen. Is there any way to do that? Yeah, or can we just pull that document up? It's a PDF. You can't highlight it though, right? Where are my city people? I'm not hearing anything.
So Tracy, Ingrid's sharing the PowerPoint. I have the PDF, so we both can't share at the same time.
Okay. I'm just writing.
Yeah, can we just show the document and someone say what the numbers are?
Yep.
The top 5.
Let me highlight the top 4 or the top 5.
2, 3, 5, 7, and 14. I really appreciate your patience, everyone. You know, like I said, we're in a room. All we have to do is circle them, you know, but we can't do that. Okay, there we go. Look at, there's the genius. Okay, so number 2, which got the highest votes, is review hiring practices to ensure the recruitment of a more diverse workforce, hiring practices within the school districts. Number 3, the city council should use the pandemic relief funds and partner with the schools in our city to confront disparities that students and their parents contend with in Petaluma. 5, the new permanent commission on race relations and public safety, we're recommending a new permanent commission, should engage school administrations, parents, community groups, and local agencies to identify successes and gaps in DEI initiatives, etc. 7, all Petaluma public schools would provide multiple site-based school-wide assemblies that recognize diversity heritage months. And 14, revisit the 8.3 million spending proposal and redirect some of the city hall renovations to help increase diversity awareness and visibility in our schools. Okay, so those are our top 5. Are we good with that? I need to somebody's raising their hand. Is that Catherine?
It is.
Okay, go. Oh, we got lots of hands. Okay.
So now that these tallies have come in, and a lot of them went to number 3 and number 14, which have to do with the ARP funds that we received. It has to do with that 8.3 million. I'm wondering if we can have a little bit more input from Eric and or Brian, because I'm wondering if we're going to even be able to direct any of these funds at all.
That's a good question. Eric, are you able? Go ahead.
I can chime in.
Sorry,
I think that's
go ahead.
Brian, I was going to defer to you to answer that, is what I was going to say. And if you need my assistance, I'll be glad to.
So thank you for the question, and good evening, everybody. I'm Brian Cochran, Assistant City Manager, filling in for Peggy, who's out this month. Yeah, so just to comment a little bit about the ARPA funds, on August 2nd, the City Council did appropriate approximately 7.6 out of the 8.3 million to a variety of projects, community programs, and different items that probably numbered 12 or 13 different programs. There is about $650,000 that is unallocated, and there were 3 members of the council that did volunteer for an ad hoc committee to go out into the community, do additional outreach, and see what the community said were the biggest needs for that $650,000. One thing that's struck me during the conversation is that this particular ranking of these items may be a really important and valid input into that ad hoc committee process, where we can take this feedback back to that ad hoc committee and put that into the overall matrix of the different needs within the community. That funding is intended to respond to pandemic-related issues, city operational issues, city revenue loss issues, community needs, rental assistance, business assistance, a whole slew of things. So those were some of the different buckets that we did apply that funding to. I do believe, just looking at number 14, and this is a real quick, like off the top of my head reaction, the amount of deferred maintenance and frankly inadequate facilities that exist in the city does not make me think that it's going to be realistic to reallocate some of the specific money dedicated to city hall renovations, because those needs are so great. And we're talking, HVAC systems that haven't been renovated since the 60s in some cases, that are just literally not safe for folks to be working in. So those are some of the issues we're dealing with, and I don't think city staff would recommend that we reallocate those city hall renovation funds. However, I will say that we definitely could add this as an input to that ad hoc committee that will be looking at the remaining $650,000. Finally, I would also mention that some of the programs that the city already has funded with the $8.3 million in ARPA funds are directly going to various segments of our community. We have funded $100,000 in food programs with different organizations in the city, $100,000 of additional childcare assistance to the Boys and Girls Club, a variety of small business assistance, as well as rental assistance for lower income renters who are behind on their rent and behind on their utilities. So those are a few of the programs that have been funded. And I apologize, I think I've talked long enough. I'll defer to the committee at this point.
Thanks
Thank
for the
you, Brian.
clarification.
Okay, Claudia, I think you had a question or comment?
Yeah, I just, first of all, I forget who suggested number 7. Was that Joel?
Yes.
Okay, and I just wanted to know, does Joel's vision include kids taking a leadership role, you know, in this type of programming? Because I'm a little disappointed that, you know, the number 6 wasn't voted for, because I really think that our youths should be a part of speaking up for themselves, speaking out for themselves, and you know, maybe deciding what it is that they would like to see happen in their schools.
Yeah, and Claudia, you know, I'll just speak to that, and thank you for bringing that up. You know, a lot of schools will already have a student council already established at their school, which usually incorporates 4th, 5th, and 6th graders. Because our elementary schools go up to 6th grade. And so I know, at least in our little district, our student council representatives are heavily involved in every decision socially of what happens at our school. These kids, and I can't remember who said it earlier, but I'm going to chime in with whoever. Maybe it was Hanan. But these kids have a social, moral compass that guides them, and I don't see how that would be an inhibitor to schools. I think that would be a wonderful addition, is having those kids take the empowerment. Every time I've seen our student council take that empowerment, they go above and beyond what the expectations are. So I totally think that's a work in with school site leadership as well. That's a great suggestion, Claudia.
Thank you.
Eric?
Yeah, I just wonder if like 3 enables us to think hard about implementing some of these other ideas that didn't make the cut, but I think are sort of go hand in hand with 3. So again, I'll just repeat myself: 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. So I just wonder if part of the recommendation can be to include some of those topics as sort of, you know, potential areas of funding, and also combine, you know, the new permanent commission number 5 is, you know, can go hand in hand with spending the money, essentially advising it, or maybe even having, I don't know if this is possible, but having financial control over it. Thank you.
This is a question for, thank you, a question for Ramona, just a second, for Eric and for Brian. Is that a false narrative in the sense that can a commission even have control over any of those funds? Or is that even, I know that's a very complex question, but I have to ask it.
Eric, I don't know if you wanted to weigh in. My gut answer is no. Ultimately, the city council does have the appropriation authority for city funding, but there may be grant programs or other things that we could think about. So I don't know, Eric, if.
Yes, and thanks. I had to reconnect with my Zoom, but yes, by charter, the council is the only body authorized to appropriate city spending funds. I mean, they do it by ordinance even. It's pretty formal. And that is a structure that's been prescribed by the voters. So the council's not even free to change it. What bodies in the future the council may create and what delegations it may make toward those bodies is going to be up to the council. It'll have to be consistent with the charter and other applicable laws. And we'll have to see what that direction is in response to what the recommendations of this committee are. But the short answer is, as things exist now, there's not. That's an authority that resides solely with the council.
Yeah. Okay. Well, what I will recommend, as opposed to subsuming things under things, frankly, the council watched these meetings. They absolutely watch these meetings, and they will also get all of these documents. If you all are in agreement, what I would suggest is we submit this document as it is, so they see the other elements there, because they would see it anyway because it's part of the work product. But we submit it with the highlighted that show that those were the top 5, but they have the other ones because some do edify the top 5. Is everyone okay with that? Okay. All right. Okay. And I think, do we have a hand up? Is that Ramona?
Yes, we have Ramona with her hand raised, and I'm
Okay.
unsure if Chief
That's okay. You just dealt with it, Tracy, because I get a little frustrated sometimes when we vote and then we make changes on what we voted on.
Mhm.
And I think that you're right. I think this is the vote. I think we should accept it and move on to the next category.
Okay. And Ken, you had your hand up.
I did. I lowered it. A question. I don't know the answer to this. If the ARPA funding is limited just to local government, or is it possible that there was funding coming to the school districts as well? I just don't know the answer to that. So I don't know how that plays into this discussion. That was it. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. All right. So let's take, all right. What we're going to do now is do you guys need a 5-minute break, or are you okay to push through so we can try to get out of here by 9?
Well, and also, are we going to do public comment? Because I know we're pretty time constrained right now.
Yes, we are. Of course. We would not we would not end this meeting without that, but we're pushing for 9 because we all have lives, right? And so it's already 8:15, but the next one is shorter. Do you need a break, or can we go straight through to the Multicultural Center? Push through? Okay. All right. All right. You all are troopers. Okay. Wait a minute. Why do we have? Okay. All right. Let me see something. So here with this had 20, what I culled down to 20. The center should be on the east side of Petaluma. And because I don't live in Petaluma and visit you all, that whoever put that in, I'd love for you to explain that once we get through that, why that's important. I'm just love to know. Focus on the needs of marginalized communities. Promote visibility and cultural awareness. Designed by the Cultural Equity and Restorative Justice Task Force, a hub for community discussions and community collaboration. Creation of a multicultural center by investing in the Lucchese Center and the Phoenix Theater Measure U funds for the infrastructure piece. Pandemic relief funds to invest in organizations and multicultural events held at the venues. Consider using Petaluma Community Center for the venue. A new commission would have, as part of its charter, to recommend programming for the center. Petaluma Restorative Practices Center as a part of the Multicultural Community Center. Centrally located hub for education, training, and services to individuals, families, community groups, and civic and business organizations. The center would provide education and training in restorative principles and practices. The restorative approach would be used for problem-solving, conflict resolution, and repair of harm. The center would be staffed by a combination of paid staff and trained volunteers that provide restorative practice services to the community, including the healing of racial trauma. In partnering with all Petaluma school districts, the Petaluma Multicultural Center shall create and promote social awareness, diversity education, and provide support for services for the students of Petaluma. The Parks and Recreation Department can partner with the community to help the current community center expand its programming and add a restorative justice center to address the concerns that the community has articulated. There should be 2 funded staff positions, one to create and monitor multicultural program and the other to create and monitor a restorative justice center. A committee of 7 residents shall be appointed to oversee and evaluate the multicultural aspects of the center and to integrate and expand restorative justice program. Creation of a multicultural center by investing in the Lucchese Center. I think that's the same. I may have duplicated that. Yeah, I think that's pretty much a duplication of number 6. Sorry about that, or very close to it. So we should probably scrap that one because it's the same. 17 and 6 are the same. 18, use existing libraries, recreational centers, and/or a historical building located downtown for monthly town halls and educational seminars. The center should be a place where people's identities are affirmed and where they feel safe. The space should have a physical design that fosters community engagement, constructive collaboration, and effective communication regarding the needs and concerns of all community members. Why don't we,
Tracy, real quick, my apologies. 17 should be, the center should be established as a 501c3 with programming to include diversity training, multi-generational workshops, lectures, restorative justice programs, and cultural education through the arts. That was my mistake on that one.
Okay. So essentially, it echoes a lot of the same, but it has the 501c3 component in there. Okay, so let's leave it in. So 17, remember, is 501c3. Okay, so now let's have a brief discussion on this because I want to get to the vote. I want us to be able to have public comment. These are 2 really critical topics that we need to hear from the public. So thoughts on these? Anybody want to, can someone first answer my question? I mean, I get kind of, no, I don't, because I don't know Petaluma well enough. Why should it be on the east side?
Tracy, that was a part of my proposal, and it's been repeated in various ways because there's an uneven distribution of wealth and also representation of POC between the West and the East. The West side tends to be a lot more of the affluent, white, kind of old timer or Marin County people. The side is a lot more diverse.
And then where is the line? Where's the dividing line?
I would say kind of like the fairgrounds-ish. That's now
okay.
But the east side tends to be ignored. Everything happens on the west side.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you. Claudia, did you have a point you want to make?
Yeah, I just wanted to agree with Hanan. The east side is ignored, and it seems to, in my opinion, a little more diverse than the west side. So I agree that it should either take place on the east side or, I don't know what's happening with the fairgrounds, but that's like 50 plus acres. You could have a multicultural center there, and it would be considered midtown, so both east and west could get to it. Thank you, Aaron, for making that correction. And I do want to mention, I know that Lucchese is mentioned in this proposal, but I have to respectfully disagree with that idea because, first of all, I think the Multicultural Center should be its own entity where it has ongoing programs and not things that happen just once a month. I envision this as being some place where kids can come to after school. I think someone mentioned earlier tying the Multicultural Center or partnering the center with the school campuses. So I don't see this as being something where you only do something for Black History Month or what have you, that there should be ongoing programs. And, I did a little research into the Parks and Recs. The staff is not very diverse. I think whoever leads or heads up the Multicultural Center, it should be made up of BIPOC and LGBTQ plus people. So yeah, I just wanted to mention those few things, and I'm sure I'm forgetting something, but it'll come to me in a minute.
Okay, thank you. Joel?
Yeah, I thank you very much. I just wanted to echo Hanan about the traveling programs that I think are pretty important, like having, you know, traveling presentations, traveling resource trailers, whatever that may be. I also want to say I agree with Claudia on having a separate entity space rather than the Lucchese Center. And then I just want to say that, you know, my idea was the number 13 and partnering with the public school districts, that I think that, as I've mentioned before, librarians are an underused resource in our schools, whether it's elementary, middle school, or high school. And I think you can take all of those librarians and make them the liaisons to the multicultural center. The multicultural center, I think, should hire a educational manager that meets monthly with all the librarians of the school districts to pull in those resources and to promote through educational programs, speeches, presentations, etc.
Thank you. Aaron, I can't see who else has their hand up. Can you?
Yes, Claudia still has her hand raised, and then last speaker was Joel.
Okay.
My
Anyone
mistake.
else? Oh, that's okay. Anyone else have, does anyone else have any comments or thoughts?
Faith does.
Faith, go ahead.
I just saw Phoenix Theater in there, and the Phoenix Theater is not owned by the city unless something has changed recently. And so I'm not sure how you're going to do that unless you're going to buy the building.
Okay, good information. And Brian has is it owned by this, just out of curiosity, is it owned by the city or it's privately owned?
I believe it's privately owned, not owned
Okay.
by the city.
Okay, thank you. All right, others, any other comments?
You have Zaira, followed by Ramona, followed by Joel.
Okay. Zaira?
Yeah, so I think, you know, I'm a little, I guess I think differently just because the multicultural center, again, where's that funding coming from? Does that mean construction? Where's that, you know, funding coming from? And it's more on, Petaluma has a lot of untapped potential. Petaluma usually has a lot of buildings that are just kind of empty. I think that's why I brought up the Lucchese Center, is because the Lucchese Center isn't up to date with their buildings. You know, anytime there's any sort of events in there, the technology is just, it's crap. You know, and I'm just saying that the Phoenix Center is where all the teenagers go to. And unfortunately, we almost lost that. And so then it's not owned by the city, but it is something that we could fund in order, like if we needed a building, we could always partner up with the owners and be like, hey, could we use this as a multicultural center? Because that is a place or a spot where all the teenagers go, where the youth go. So I think that's, and I agree, there is a difference between the East and the West. There isn't enough representation on the East side for city council. A lot of families live there. A lot of BIPOC communities live there. But we also have organizations that they don't necessarily need to do once a month events. They do other things like mentorship. You know, the AAPI collective has things going on constantly. So it's just, where are we getting, I love these ideas, but if we don't have funds in order to invest in communities and groups and organizations that are already doing this, you know, it just can't, you know, happen. But other than that, you know, for the multicultural, sure, I'm in agreement. Just, I'm curious on the construction and the how, and where the fund's going.
And that, I mean, you must be in project management because that is.
I'm not. I'm just saying. I
You're
mean,
not.
the thing is, I'm not an expert in finances. I'm not an expert in development. What I am an expert is my community, because I speak to the community, and I've been on the ground, and I've partnered up with a lot of different organizations. They've, you know, expressed the different things that they've done. Petaluma just has untapped potential that we're not using.
Yeah, no, the reason I said that is because, you know, that is the foundation, right? You don't have funding for it. You spend for, you know, all this time and you don't get anywhere because you just go in circles. So I think the funding has come up. And I think if people take that seriously, that notion that funding is critical, let your votes do the talking, vote for one of the pieces in here that talks about funding, because whether it's for these specific funds we were talking about or someplace else, we need to find the funding. Okay, Aaron, help me keep them in order so I don't call people out of order.
Yep. We have Ramona, followed by Joel, and then followed by Claudia.
Okay.
I was just going to mention that in my responses, I mentioned a feasibility study.
Yeah.
And I know that there were some public individuals who read the comments and commented on that. And I think that obviously, we don't know the cost, and there needs to be a feasibility study to see what it would cost, where it would go, and how we would raise the funds. And I would recommend, I know I've been told we can't change anything, but in partnering number 13, it's not just partnering with the school districts, it's partnering with the Petaluma community. This is going to be a community multicultural center. So we would need to engage the entire community and community funders to make this happen.
You might also find there's foundations that might also kick in funds for this as well.
Absolutely, but it's not just partnering with the school districts, it's partnering with the community.
Yep. Okay. I just don't want to change anything we have here, but that's on that's on the record. I mean, I think that's important, very important. Okay, who was next?
You have Joel, followed by Claudia.
Okay, Joel.
Thank you. So yes, Ramona, I think it is important to bring the community into it. I think that, like was mentioned, we can bring in different organizations like PEF, which supports all of Petaluma schools. I think that's a great way to get them involved. I want to mention two things. Number one, Tom Gaffey is the name of the founder and manager of the Mystic Theater. I know he's heavily involved with youth outreach and provides several services for all the youth of Petaluma at his place. So, and I have personal connections to him, so I just want to throw that out there. The other thing is, I want to throw this out there just because when you think of exposing people to diversity and inclusion, you think of getting it into areas in which may not have, it's not prevalent, right? So we say the East Side is a great place for this because it's an area where there's a large BIPOC population. There's a lot more low-income housing in our population. So it seems like a great place. But on the other side, if you want to play devil's advocate, wouldn't somewhere near the West Side be a good place to expose the entire West Side to this resource that's within the community, and hopefully within the school districts, if they can make that partnership, it should influence both sides of the community rather than just East Side versus West Side. I mean, ultimately, we want to make this an inclusive community, right? We don't want to separate by East Side and West Side. But I'm not saying that that's the ultimate solution. I'm just saying if you want to expose people who are more adverse to new ideas, the way you do it is by, as we said earlier, kind of pushing us forward into what where we should be.
Yep, that's very true.
Yes.
I mean, the question is, how you want to make it. I feel strange using the demarcation of East and West Side because I don't live there. If I may have the committee's indulgence to use that for just this conversation. I hate when people come in from outside and don't know what they're talking about. But I guess what I'm trying to say here is that I think that's a really good point, Joel, because if it's tucked away in the East Side completely, right?
Yes.
People don't have to see it. They don't have
Correct.
to look at it.
Correct.
The folks on the West Side.
Yeah.
You want things a bit more in people's faces, but also you want to balance that with serving the needs of the people on the East Side in a place where they're comfortable going.
Yes.
So that's just for discussion.
And
okay,
I think to Hannon, just 1 second, to Hannon's thought earlier about having those mobile resources, that can help bridge the gap between those, because it's really encompassing the entire city rather than just one select area or population.
Yep, that's true. All right, we have two more, and then we need to probably move on so we can get to public comment and the vote. Is that right, Aaron? We have two more?
Yeah, so we have Claudia and then Hanam.
Okay, Claudia?
Yeah, so I just wanted to say I agree with Zaira that Petaluma has a lot of untapped resources. And I keep going back to the fairgrounds because I don't know how often that area is used. And I know I looked up a few of the halls there. There's the Beverly C. Wilson Hall. How often is that hall used and what is it used for? So you wouldn't even have to worry about building a building, and it's in the middle. It kind of joins both sides. I agree with the whole east side, west side thing. My only concern about having something on the west side, I agree about exposing people on the west side to other people's cultures and so forth. But if we're looking at kids having to come from one side of town to the other, you're asking the kids from the east side to travel to the west side to do stuff. And we ask them to do that quite a bit, I think.
Yeah, that's something to very much consider.
Yeah, and I do like the idea of using the Phoenix because the kids already know about it. But again, it's here on the west side of town. So if we could provide some sort of transportation or something, then that would be helpful. But yeah, I'll stop there.
Before we go, thank you. Before we go to Hanan, I just want to remind you, I think there's a note in here about it, but in somebody's homework, they had a really good point about, and I don't know if I captured it because it was a small point, but it's a big point. The community center should attract multiple generations. We don't just want kids because we want that elder, I hate the word elder, the more seasoned members of our community to be able to influence and share, and guide. And we want them to be comfortable going there for creation and to create and ideate as well.
Right.
So just
and that was my recommendation because there's this village feel. And I'll end on this. Let's not forget about the arts.
Yes.
Because I believe that restorative justice is important. But people learn through the arts as well. You learn through storytelling, you learn through dance, you learn through the arts. And for younger people, that is going to possibly be more attractive to them. And I do want to make sure if we do this, I want to make sure that there definitely is diversity because as Faith said, Black and Brown and Asian and Indigenous kids are going to learn best, first and foremost, from people who look like them.
Yep.
And we have heard several times this evening, they are not getting that.
Yep.
They're in their school experience. So this center needs to be the exact opposite of that.
Thank you. So let's go. We have two more, okay? And then we're going to cut it off because we're going to vote after that. So who's next? Is it Hanan and then Eric?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So when I was writing my proposal, which is also 13.1 and a couple of other portions in there, I was thinking a lot about the Multicultural Center of Marin, which I have had the immense pleasure of doing a lot of work with them as a teacher in Marin County. And trying to think of how to put this. I think we need to be focusing on supporting people of color and queer people right now, and not as much providing the learning opportunities for the privileged white people in Petaluma. They can Google things, and I mean honestly, it's the people of color who need the support. So if we're going to be putting money into this resource, I think the focus needs to be on supporting the people of color and the queer people and anyone else who's feeling marginalized and who needs resources, not on educating the white people who can pick up a book or Google something, or I'm not trying to sound callous. But if we're going to be finding resources to create a multicultural center, the purpose needs to be to support people who need support.
Yes.
I'm gonna stop there because I kind
of no. You're right. I think you're spot on the money. This is not just to be a mobile library where people can come at leisure and read about things that they may have been uncomfortable about. No, this is about creating, I would think, a safe space where change can begin to happen and people can be safe, but like-minded people can come to the center. Doesn't matter what color they are.
Absolutely, but we need empowerment for our marginalized communities right now.
Right.
Do not exist in Petaluma. Do not exist in Petaluma. This does
Yep.
not exist, right?
Okay.
And so number 13, and what I was talking about previously, and the previous thing that we voted on, is really creating this multicultural center, and as Joel said, have satellite presence in each school. But
Yeah.
the intention of that presence is for it to be a resource and support for students of color or queer students who are struggling, students who are marginalized, and of course, welcoming, white people who want to be active in that way. But it is intended to be an educational resource for white people who want to learn about racism per se. That happen, but that's not, from my perspective, that's not the main intention.
Okay, thank you. Eric, and then Claudia, and then I am going to make the executive decision that we cut off conversation so we can vote. Okay, Eric?
Thanks, Hanan, because you said things much more elegantly than I would have, so I'll just be short. I think I'm looking at 16 and 8 because what Hanan just described is something that's going to take considerable thought and a lot of effort to get the right people involved to make it happen. And so we're going to have a group of folks really committed to doing that right, so that we're really providing the services that we need, and not just providing a different way to Google, as Hanan said. So I just wanted to underscore that point. Thank you.
Thank you. And Claudia?
Yes, so can I just add one thing to my edit, which I think was number 17, Aaron edited. Can we please just add the multi-generational workshops and lectures?
I think that's fair. Can we just say multi-generational programming?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But I also, I'm sorry not to be a pain, but cultural education through the arts for me is a big part of that one. And I don't think it's in there.
Aaron, are you able to, because there seems to be consensus around that.
Tracy, I am able to edit, but I know you just mentioned in the last one that if it wasn't submitted in the homework, we weren't going to change any of them. So,
but it was submitted in the homework, and it did not make it.
And it's very possible because I couldn't capture everything, and I do remember seeing that.
Right.
So I 100% stand behind it. I can prove it to you.
Just want to make sure that we're equitable.
Yeah. Okay, I'm getting hot. It's hot in here under these lights. Okay, so are you changing it? And then we're getting ready to vote, Susie and Ingrid, as soon as he makes that change. You guys, I'm going to go off camera just for a second to open this window more. Otherwise, I'm going to faint on camera and it won't be cute. Hold on.
Claudia, can you repeat what exactly you want to
Sure. If you could just add multi-generational workshops and cultural education through the arts.
Right.
Thank you.
Are we ready?
Actually, one more thing. Because, Tracy, you weren't aware that there was an east side, west side.
Yeah.
There's more than one. I think there might be 3 that are addressing having this located in the east side. So like the Lucchese centers on the east side. It just seems like there's 3 that's saying the exact same thing. And I think it's just because you weren't like familiar.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, at this point, so why don't you, so what I would say, so we can get to the vote, thank you for that. But if your goal is to, I'd like to leave it as it is now, just because it'll take too much time. But I think that's important for people to know, okay? Because that is completely because I wasn't aware of it, and I wanted to. I think there was obviously some presence of place attached to the Lucchese Center in Phoenix. So, okay, are we ready? Or do I still see hands up? Can we vote now, please? Okay, yeah.
Tracy, can we just say then that if someone wants the location to be on the west side, then we just vote once, so that we don't have the split vote on that?
Yeah, that makes sense. Do people understand what she's advocating for?
No.
Okay, Hanan, express
So
it.
so I think there's three, and I can't, but there's one like requesting that the multicultural center be placed at the Lucchese Center. There's number one saying on the east side, and there's another one kind of indicating the east side. And so that's kind of a split vote. And perhaps if you are advocating for it to be somewhere on the east side, maybe we all agree just to vote on one, on number one.
Yeah, that's fine. People can make, I think they can make that decision. Are the Lucchese Center, are you saying the Lucchese and the Phoenix are on the east side? Are they both, they're the west side?
The Lucchese's on the east side, the Phoenix is on the west side.
I got it. Okay. All right, thank you. You have to give me a tour sometime. I have no idea where these things are. Okay, all right.
And
So
Tracy, just for clarification, Petaluma Community Center is Lucchese as well, so it's interchangeable.
oh, thank you. I was transcribing. I didn't know. Thank you. I appreciate it. Okay, are we ready? City?
Yep, whenever you are.
I am ready to go.
Excellent.
I'm ready.
Great. Joel Brunner DeKeen.
Okay, so are we doing 5 votes again?
5 votes again.
Okay, so I'd like to do, let's do 2 on number 13, 2 on number 17, and 1, excuse me, on number 6. Sorry to go back to the beginning.
Okay. Let's see, Claudia de la Pena.
I'd like 1 on 1, 2 on 13, and 2 on 17. Thank you.
Thank you. Ramona Faith.
Five on 20.
All 5 on 20. You got it. Okay. Rabbi Ted Feldman.
2 on 14, 2 on 15, 1 on 16.
Okay, thank you. Anthony Franklin.
1 on 6, 1 on 13, 1 on 16, 2 on 17.
Thank you. Joanna Garcia.
1 for 12, 1 for 13, 1 for 17, 2 for 20.
Okay, Zaira Garcia.
So this one's a tough one, but I'm just gonna go with 3 on number 6 and 2 on number 17.
Oh, be nice. Excellent, thank you. Hanan Hunaidi.
Okay. 1 on number 1, 2 on 20, 1 on 4, 1 on 13.
Alrighty. Eric Leland.
Yeah, 1 vote for number 6, 2 votes for number 13, 1 vote for number 14, 1 vote for number 16.
Thank you. Sonja Lowry. Yeah, I think she may have dropped offline. Let's see. Try Sadie Martinez. Julia Main.
2 on number 17, 1 on 14, 1 on 20, and 1 on 10. Thank you.
Got it. Thank you. Mike Miller.
All 5 on number 13.
Okay. Joanna Pond. Kenyana Reynolds.
3 for 13 and 2 for 2.
All right. Fabian Ramos Macias. Faith Ross.
2 for 13. 2 for 13, 3 for 17.
Okay. Mark Scott.
1, 2 for 13, and 2 for 17.
Great. And you started out with 1 vote for number 1.
Right.
Excellent. Thank you, Mark. Joe Sturdivant.
I would like 1 vote each for 10, 11, 12, 13, and 17.
Okay. Thank you. Risa Tinsley Green.
1 vote for number 1, 2 votes for number 6, 1 vote for number 16, and 1 vote for number 17.
And was that a 15 or a 16?
16.
16, 1 6, and then 1 for 1 7. Okay. Thank you. Pedro Toledo.
All 5 on 13.
Thank you. Catherine Wells.
1 vote on number 10. 1 vote on 13. 1 on 17, and 2 on 20.
Thank you. Aaron Wilkins.
Abstain.
Copy that. Thank you. Lose Wire.
1 on 11, 1 on 13, 1 on 16, and 2 on 17.
Excellent. Thank you. And Tracy, we are done.
Okay, thank you. So we need about probably 2 minutes to 2 to 3 minutes for the magic to happen in the background, and we can highlight, just like we did before, the top 5. We can show the number of votes and that they each received, and then highlight them. Please. And I really want to commend all of you. This requires an incredible amount of focus and energy and commitment. And thank you very, very much for sticking through this process. You will look back, 5 or 10 years from now, and you will see changes that you were very pivotal in igniting. So thank you so much.
Tracy, can I make just a quick comment?
Sure.
Just before I know public comment, so we can all go to bed soon.
Yes.
But in the future, though, I appreciate all that you do and for how you're moderating. But maybe if we could kind of do the feedback that is needed within our community or committee members outside and not under public eye, I think that was a little bit of a tension here. Like I get full transparency, but I guess the feedback that I'm saying is maybe could we do that off camera?
I hear you. And I had received, Julia, can I disclose? I can't hear you. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Is it okay for me to disclose?
Well, you already have, so go ahead.
Well, they know. If a person feels that they have been unfairly singled out, I have to say something about that. And this is not the first time. I'm just direct. This is not the first time. And she's brought that up before. And I've let it go, but that can't happen.
So is she gonna get reprimanded online for calling me a bully or no? We're gonna let that go? We're gonna let it go? Got it.
We're not gonna keep going back and forth on this.
Yeah,
We're
see,
not.
but that was the thing, is that it was much better to do this behind the scenes, and I was just saying, just for the purpose of time. But
no, I hear you.
And I also think, not to also put out there is that so often, and I'm sure you get this, and so does Joy, where being angry or considered angry is always a disadvantage for people of color, Black and brown.
Particularly Black women and brown women.
Exactly.
Yes,
So
yes.
I think when I say that, for the cameras, I just don't want folks perceiving a Black woman who comes off as quote unquote angry, which, we are rightfully so to have our emotions. It's just that kind of adds fuel to what is going on in Petaluma, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's why I didn't appreciate the on the camera set, because this just kind of adds on to what's been going on in Petaluma. That's just my 2 cents. Thank you so much for allowing
No,
me.
absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for sharing. I don't want to talk about this anymore. I want us to focus. This is my request, that we focus on the work, and that behavior, we're respectful of each other, and we go from there. I mean, I could say a whole lot more than I'm not saying right now. Okay, so I'm biting my tongue, because we need to stay focused on this work, and let's just let it go. Let's not call out people by specific to their homework or their beliefs. Let's keep it on the topic, and we shouldn't be using names. But how else if you feel like you're being bullied, or if you whatever the thing is, what word do you use? I don't know. What is there another word? So. Yeah, I think the two of you need to work it out. I really would like you to work
that's
it
the funny thing, Tracy, is that you're like, you guys have to. I literally have never spoken to this woman, so I don't actually know. You're like, you guys have beef. I don't have any beef with her. So like the fact that you're putting that on me is like inappropriate, I believe. So it's fine.
Okay.
I'm just saying that's right. Like I think it was just extra and unnecessary, but whatever.
You may think that, but I also have to take into consideration her, her feelings of how she felt on camera. So that's also part of it. So
I guess mine don't matter then.
Oh, Kenyatta, let's not go into
Well,
hyperbolic.
but I'm just saying
stop.
it's the same.
Time out.
I don't understand how it's different.
You're not going to. So let's just stop. Let's just
Tracy,
move on.
could you tilt your screen down a little bit so we can
don't
see
know
you? All we
what's-
see is just the forehead.
I don't know what's going on with this camera right now. It's really weird. What color?
There you go. Perfect.
What color is the painting behind me?
Orange, red, yellow.
On my screen, it's like purple and black. I don't understand. Okay, what's happening with my camera?
Tracy, can I say one thing?
Not about that topic. I'm out of it.
It's not
Okay.
about that topic.
Okay.
I just wanted to appreciate that this evening, for the most part, city officials only spoke when asked to speak by a panel member or by a committee member. And I just want to express that I think that is how the flow should go. And I want to appreciate that for the most part, that is what happened.
Thank you. Okay. Who was that? I heard that huge sigh. Okay. All right. So where are we now? All right. Wow. 13. Okay. All right. Is it possible to show the document with those highlighted, Aaron, or is that, let's see. Please. Perfect. Okay. All right. So these are the ideas, thank you, that will we'll pass on to under the Multicultural Center, that will pass on to the council. We'll review all these again next week. Fair enough? We'll move to public comment, and then I'll come back and close it out.
Could I see the vote count screen again?
Absolutely. You good?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. All right. So public comment.
Thank you, Tracy.
Tracy, do you want to show the next step slide now or after public comment?
After public comment, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
Those wishing to participate in general public comment must raise a virtual hand and wait to be called on by the moderator. Speakers are reminded to be respectful in their comments. Threats of violence from CNE are grounds for removal from this meeting. A countdown will appear for the convenience of the speaker and the viewers. Your microphone will be muted at the end of that countdown. The first speaker will be acknowledged and invited to speak when the countdown begins. Please make sure to unmute yourself when you're invited to do so. At this point, if there's anyone in the public that would like to give public comment, please raise your virtual hand. First speaker that we have is John Hania. John, I will allow you to speak. You can unmute yourself and begin.
Good evening. First of all, I want to say thank you for all the work that you guys trying to do. You guys making a lot of good points. I just hope all this work doesn't go down the drain because your city council doesn't do anything, and they haven't done anything for a long time. You guys mentioned the theater, Phoenix Theater. Well, I have a lot of dealing with Tom Gaffey. Tom Gaffey is a wonderful human being, and he was basically the big brother for most of the teenagers throughout all the years. I have asked him if I could use his facility back in mid-90s when the police department decided to crack down beyond what you can imagine on kids who just want to enjoy themselves downtown. And they were so aggressive on those kids. And I put a meeting at the Phoenix Theater. And if any of you want to know more about it, you can ask me or you can ask Ken. He was one of the police officers who was assigned to downtown at the time. The community needs a lot of things done, especially for our younger generation. Our younger generation, for years and years and years, they haven't got a fair deal from our community, especially from the city or the police department. There's a lot of good officers in that department who really care, and they go out of their way to help somebody who in need of trouble, or they just try to help them get on the right track. But there's a lot of police officers throughout the years, and some of them currently, who have a power trip. And you talk about restorative justice. There's no such a thing in Sonoma County. You can talk about it all day long. I don't know how many of you have reached out to the public defender to see the cases they deal with, that they are sent to the district attorney by the police department. I encourage you all to watch on YouTube Marcus Jeter, to how he was treated by a police department. It wasn't in Petaluma, but similar things happen in Petaluma, okay? I encourage you all to ask how many resistant arrests, okay, 148 are issued. Most of the police constantly quit resisting. So these things, especially with younger generation with the power trip, need to come to an end. And I encourage you to do whatever you can for the Phoenix Theater, because Tom is a wonderful human being. Thank you.
The next speaker that you have is Sheila Baker. I'll now allow you to speak. You can unmute yourself and begin.
Oops. Thank you. I just want to mention that it might be good to reach out to Petaluma Transit for transportation needs of people going from east side to west side, because it is pretty overwhelming to figure out how to get to a place when you are really not dealing with car transportation. So Petaluma Transit may be able to help with transportation needs of people, young people, especially going to some of these events and places. So thank you so much. Thank you.
The next speaker that we have is Sarah with Aya and Aya pronouns. And I'll allow you to speak. You can unmute yourself again.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. First of all, thank you all for all of this work. It is really really challenging to do the work that you are doing. And I uplift and honor each and every one of you, and all that language that needs to go. Everyone needs to be uplifted. There shouldn't be languages of bullying or to bully or to call people bullies. I think that everyone needs to have a voice in here, but that's besides the point. Not besides it, it's very important, but what I wanted to speak to in regards to how we're going to deal with schools with the city, I think that there needs to be honestly a communication. They do intertwine. And I see that you were talking about that. The city is to support in all of the in-between spots. I was speaking to a woman who worked in San Francisco for many years, and she became the senior educational advisor to Gavin Newsom. She was the deputy chief of staff in education and equity. And she was a position held at the city council with the mayor. And her job was to be an in-between, to have a community that worked in between in all places. And through that work, they were able to get public safety involved in ways that uplifted the families. They were able to get, Muni involved. Many of the things that you all are talking about, making sure that there is someone who is in a communication space that way. The Petaluma Healthcare District does this really well with the schools. Through CHIPA, there are organizations that are working within all the different organizations, LGBTQI families, Petaluma Blacks for Community Development, DALE, Equity in Education, CHIPA, UCLC Quack, Family Life Center, to name a few. In regards to having diversity in leadership, we need to have the support there financially, mental and emotionally. We have a problem here in Petaluma where we've had our first ever, as Ira mentioned earlier, Black superintendent of schools and Black president of the school board. Both of these women have been harassed and have been attacked, both online, in public, in person. And that support system is not in place. We need to have uplifting support systems to be able to sustain and keep these people here sustainably. We also need to be able to recruit in places that the people are. Having a community center on the east side where the families are that need to be uplifted, that need that support, that need the places for them to go. That's where we need to be. We need to be recruiting in those communities and training and giving that kind of support. I believe that that's what this community is doing. I believe that that's what you all, every single one of you on here, are here for. May it continue. Thank you for your work. I honor, I uplift you. I am here to support in any way I possibly can. You all are amazing. Thank you.
Aaron, how many more speakers do we have?
We have 2 more speakers.
Perfect. Great.
Currently. So the next speaker that we have is Susan Kurtz. I will now allow you to speak. You can unmute yourself and begin.
Thank you very much. I wanted to just thank the committee for the work that you're doing, and I appreciated being able to listen as a member of the public this evening to your discussions. Just a couple of points of information on the ARPA funds. I definitely agree about the $650,000 being placed in the area of this committee or an iteration of your committee that will continue to determine and recommend to the city council how to distribute and best use those funds. And where the assistant city manager mentioned that he didn't think staff would support a reallocation of some of the remodeling funds for the city hall, I think most people in the public, including myself, agree that HVAC upgrades, the technology upgrades that have been planned, and whatever type of health-related actions need to occur for City Hall should occur. But many of us disagreed with the remodeling and additions and other activities that really are not urgent and somehow coincided with hiring a large number of staff that aren't hired yet. So for COVID relief, I definitely agree that a portion of those funds should also be reconsidered by the city council to be reallocated. And that is up to the city council. And I would like to encourage your committee to have your relationship with the city council, who are the decision makers. The staff may not agree, the staff may not recommend, but your word and your communication to the elected officials, that is what is important in terms of being able to actually have the kind of funds needed to achieve some of the goals you're identifying. Lastly, I'd like to just say that I do agree that a multicultural center would best be located on the east side of Petaluma, and perhaps there could be a relationship with the Phoenix Theater, outreach or satellite location. I really resonate with all that was said about East Petaluma. I live on the west side of Petaluma, and I personally am in East Petaluma more often than in West Petaluma. East Petaluma is a wonderful, wonderful part of the city, and it is where there is the most diversity in our community, and hopefully that will be able to increase. So your actions are helping to set the way for a future in Petaluma.
Thank you. Your time has expired. The next speaker that we have is Sarah with they, them pronouns. I'll now allow you to speak. You can unmute yourself and begin.
Hi, I wasn't gonna weigh in tonight. I missed a good chunk of this meeting, but I watched something go down that I really wasn't okay with, and I really want to bring that up. I do want to say first of all that the homework thing is really infantilizing, because this isn't school. The folks in this meeting are adults and they deserve to be respected as such. It didn't seem like that was really worth bringing up, but I do want to bring up that last really tense conversation in which Tracy actually said the words "time out" at Kenyatta to cut her off, and then ended the conversation like that, just moving on as if that didn't happen. And that's just incredibly inappropriate behavior, and kind of makes me wonder the way that you've been looking at this group, if you see them as adults that deserve respect, or if this is just a bunch of childish activist type folks that are being led. And I don't want to assume that, but it just saying time out at somebody in a meeting is just like really crossing a line. If you want somebody to respect your time, that is a conversation that can be had like an adult. I yield the rest of my time. That's all I wanted to say.
Aaron, do we have any more?
At this point, we do not have any more speakers.
Okay. Thank you all for public comment. Let's go back. Okay, so let's wrap up the meeting. And there's a couple of points that I want to make. The first is I need your help with something, and it's an apology about, I use the term "you guys," and I'm really trying to stop that. So feel free to flag me or whatever. You know, I'm really working on that. So, and I hear, you know, it's one of those things that comes out and I shouldn't say it. So I'm trying to find a different word. The second thing is, because this is, you know, this was an issue in terms of this conversation we just had, this tense conversation. I will say this, I respect, and Zyra, thank you for your comments. I am a Black woman, as you all know. We do get accused, I have been accused so many times of being angry and whatnot. This is not, and you know, that this is a trope. But what I want to say is I would have said the same thing if Julia had made that kind of a comment or that tone or whatever, how we want to characterize it, to Kenyatta. I respect both of them equally. So bottom line is, we've got to respect each other in these sessions. Next, as we go forward, what we're going to do next, we're going to talk about hiring, diverse hiring practices in the city, or increasing diverse hiring in the city. So the homework will be, you know, fairly straightforward around that. I appreciate it gives you all a chance to think about things. And like I said, this is a matter of the public record, and it gives the council more detail. I just can't summarize it all right in the sessions, otherwise we'd never leave. So thank you all. I very much, you all accomplished a lot tonight. You really did. And this was quite a bit. There was a good discussion. There was back and forth. I thank you. And I ask that you stay safe. And next time we'll have a compilation of the 3 topics so far. We will also talk about this one, diverse hiring. It's really in the city. And we will move on from there. So thank you. Please stay safe. I mean that from my the deepest parts of my soul, because it's pretty scary out there at times. And you know how to reach me if you need me. Thank you.
I
And
have
good
a
night.
question.
Yes.
Thanks, Tracy.
Yes. Faith.
Right.
Yes.
You said our homework is diverse hiring. Are you going to send something out letting us know exactly what you want?
Yes, of course. Yes, there'll be an assignment. And also, Brian, are you okay with we may have the city, like how the last time we had bullets, particularly on the police oversight topic that the city prepared to give you some edification. We may have the same thing this time from the city. Brian, are you here? I don't see you.
Yep, I'm here, and I think, we will try to put together some data and some highlights of some of the things the city's doing, and just to provide a little background information.
Okay. Thank you all very much. Have a good night. Be safe. You all know how to reach me if you need me. Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.